Hello and welcome to the show. We are here for playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. It is day number 2, and what a match we have in store today. Let's bring it up. Let's bring it up straight away. Like, you know, you can see who's on the desk. You've seen these guys before, right? Rory B, Harold Ham, let yourselves be known. But today we are all here to watch Brod and Friends taking on 200 Bandits. You've got to be excited. You've got to be hyped. Harold, you're suited up. You're ready to go.
He's ready.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's playoffs. You kind of have to start showing up a little better, you know. At least I like dressing up a little bit more, so, you know. And it's playoffs, so it's the upper bracket. I feel like you kind of have to up your style game a little bit.
You're about to audit the macro of the enemy teams. That's what's about to happen here.
Yeah, something like that.
But it's a sentiment where, okay, look. Let's break it down for the people at home, right? You may not have seen these two teams. You may not have even seen the league. This may be your first time on Twitch. We don't know, but we're going to fill you in. So top 2 teams have made their way all the way to playoffs. It was top 4 that took themselves to the upper bracket, and these are 2 of those teams. Brod and Friends, number 2, taking on number 3, 200 Bandits. This is the second of the upper bracket plays, and it was a good one on the last one, right? Venom Crest went through to the next stage. The winner of this will take them on. The loser will go to the lower bracket, but more on that in the later stages because let's focus on the game today. We got 2 big teams, and let's kick it off with talking about Brod. Let's bring up the roster of this team. The record for them in the regular season was 8-1, and they were popping off. But talk to me right now, Rory, about how this team is performing.
Right, so this team is just performing so well. Yes, they dropped that game against Venom Crest, but it was really close throughout most of it. We should note, BO3 is not in mid lane today. It is QQR in now, a very well-known mid laner throughout the UK scene. Really, we were talking beforehand, you're thinking this is really the glue that ties it all together, J-Real.
Yeah, I feel like QQR is a good player. Like, he is a player that has been known in the scene. He has known these players as well for a long time. I feel like BO3 was great. I feel like when they had Nemly as well, he was great. I think QQR is also going to be great. He's going to add that extra little bit of flavor, but you know who knows him best? It will be one of your casters today. Greyheart, I know, will give us all the flavor, all the context, all the history to tune in if you want to know a bit more about that player. But it's about the team, not just about this player. And I feel like this team, Harold, has been so consistent throughout the tournament.
They have been consistent. They have also been consistent in ways that you don't, like, sometimes you don't really want to see. They've been consistently the most aggressive team in the league. They've gone for plays where sometimes it's not even like a 70-30. It's more 50-50. But they're just saying, we have the hands. We're just going to go for the play. We know we can pull these off because we are better. And sometimes it worked. I feel like there have been teams that have exposed them for doing this. One of them is their opponent tonight. For those who remember the regular season game between these 2 teams, Brod realistically shouldn't have won that game.
We'll get to that in a sec. On that point, though, Rory, we had a VT. Let's roll this first VT because I feel like this exactly highlights the point that you want to make about this, right? Like, Brod, they are beatable. They do make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. And this isn't their game against Venom Crest here. You're seeing that they are all colliding in the top lane to all dive bust here. Sure, it's going to be a 4-man dive. It's actually very well set up here. Akka's maybe taking an unfavorable trade, but getting the Camille passive out. What Brod and Friends don't appreciate is Freeze nearby and that they've left Sin on his lonesome. Now, yeah, Bust is going to die in this play, but Sin's also going to die more crucially on the bot side because of this 4-man force. Freeze is here to pick up the tower, and Brod, while they do get the grubs afterwards, overall, because they would have got grubs anyway because of the jungle position, they lose out on plates and experience towards their bot side. And that really spelt a bad time for them on the ingoing game.
Yeah, and I feel like they can be losing out to things like that, right? Later on in that game, they get a bit overzealous. They play for a macro that they were behind on against Venom Crest. They then lose it all when they take a team fight that they maybe shouldn't have, right? So they can definitely make mistakes. They're not unbeatable. But what I do want to focus on, let's roll VT number 2, is that how good they are when they're on the up, right? When they play in unison, Harold, I feel like they just have everything going on, right? We're going to roll a VT, basically showing about the Baron play where they've already killed 2. They now have to turn and fight in a bit of a tricky situation, which basically secures them the win, Harold, and they do it flawlessly.
Yeah, I mean, it is just about that execution, that hands difference we were talking about. It is a team that they're going to go for the play, and they have the hands to back up set play. Here, they also have the power of having the GA Atakan on top of them, which is still pretty much an end-all be-all when it comes to fighting. But they've also had these moments where their decisiveness and their way of fighting in this, like, as we were talking, this aggressive way of looking at how to play out the game has also given them the best windows to take fights, because sometimes you just taking the enemy on the back foot. You're throwing those ultimates, you're throwing those spells, and you're just making it happen.
And if I'm honest, the Spider-Man meme for two teams in the league could not be truer for these two. Let's get on to the second team in this matchup. Let's have a look at 200 Bandits, right? Let's remind the people at home who they are, what they're about. They went 6-3 in the regular season. And Rory, come on, take it away. Talk to me about 200 Bandits, because I feel like there's one name out of all of them that really gets talked about a lot.
Right, so, I mean, personally for me, okay, you're saying one name, I talk about one player a lot, and that's Loopy, because I love a good Urgot, especially in a competitive match. If he's not playing Urgot, he's normally on Ornn, which is a bit less interesting. Out of this entire team, though, I love gushing about Luke and Fleur. I feel like he's really the control of the team, and I feel like the team kind of falls apart when he gets behind early, and he's not able to make those precise plays.
Yes, agreed. Harold, do you also feel like it's similar? Because I feel like this team, they're all stars, right? I feel like they've all had their moments, but Lunkerford does seem to be kind of like the thing that allows them to tick over, right? He's kind of the thing that has to be working, the one cog that needs to kind of spin for the whole of the clock to actually make sense.
I mean, I'll say this, and I should say enough. We've had MVP voting, and my MVP vote went to Lunkerford for this split. I feel like this jungler has been exceptional at finding leads where they shouldn't happen. Of course, he had some games where somehow on red side he got his hands on red side or blue side, didn't really matter. He got hands on the Skarner, which is criminal.
Yeah,
yep.
But he is somebody that even from there was a game, I think, against the Rise in the first few weeks where he was on the Wukong and he was put so far behind by the aggressiveness of Rise, and he still found ways to make the team fights happen thanks to the, I don't know, there's just this, this eye for the play in this player. That he finds those windows where they shouldn't really happen, and he's been the dynamo of the team.
Yeah, let's bring it back to us, because we're going to quickly drop it into a VT. Let's run it back to a new one, because this is what I wanted to talk about in terms of the Spider-Man meme, right? Pop calling Kettle black if either of the two teams would talk about each other, because realistically, this team also loves to fight. They do not back down from any challenge. This is early on. Yes, they're a little bit ahead, but they just say, okay, you want to go? Let's go. And they scrap out every single time. I feel like, Broad, they need to come correct, because this team is not going to be scared. They're not going to run away from a challenge.
Yeah, and especially as I'm expecting Broad to have slightly higher macro levels than 200 Bandits, because honestly, if they're in a skirmish, like a straight 3v3 in the bot lane with some junglers, it's kind of going 50-50 or champion difference, depending on the time of the game, and Broad can't put themselves in that position. Yes, you come up from behind against 200 Bandits to win before, but let's face it, how often are you winning a game where you're 8k down? Like, you can't make the good macro early so you don't have to replace it with great macro later.
I like that you said good macro, because, you know, good macro is important. And like I said, the thing you're calling out Broad for, let's roll the VT, because 200 Bandits also make these mistakes. Harold, this was when they were playing against Gucci, right? We thought it's going to be a simple game, it's going to be easy, but instead they make the game so difficult by giving Aphelios so many kills early on.
Well, yeah, they're forcing these fights when they have the levels disadvantage, and they're just not positioned well enough to actually make it happen for their comp. They have the champions for it, but not at this stage of the game. There's this decision making that has bitten them time and time again in these fights, where you're taking the fight just because you can, and you're not really looking at timers, rotations, and you're not looking at vision, positioning. There's so many variables that go on in these fights, and sometimes, yeah, you can say, I'm just going to take the fight because I know I can win. But maybe you're taking a 2v2, and then suddenly an Aphelios with Amelia shows up.
No, exactly. And I think it's so funny because I will say, spoiler alert, they also won that game. They did beat Gucci. Yeah. So in the same way that we're saying that, 200 bandits, they were up in a big lead against Broad. Broad shouldn't have won. 200 bandits probably shouldn't have won that game either. I feel like it swings and roundabouts, and that's what I'm so excited about these teams, because when I think about these two matching up, I'm thinking a lot of team fights. I'm thinking bold decisions. I'm thinking the potential for throws and the swing. The pendulum is going to be going crazy in these games, right? But also some really nice macro if the teams clean it up, and that's what I'm expecting. But we can also just look back at history for that, right? Rory, these two teams played way back when. I believe it was in week 2, day 1. Yeah, these two met on the Rift last. And like you said, it didn't go too well for Broad in the mid game, because they did absolutely dominate that early game.
Yeah, dominated the early game. They just made some weird choices in the mid game when they weren't in a numbers advantage, and just threw away a very... what could have been a 27-minute win, and just elongated it out into a heavily goal to deficit position. And yeah, they were able to pick up some good plays with, I believe it was Akazon Sion made some really crucial picks around the 40th minute. But overall, you've got to think, Broad, as much as they like to scrap, still need to appreciate that the enemy team could have hands. And if they're out of position, if they get way too over-aggressive, they will get caught.
And also, the game ended up going down to a really good team fight, right? Two Broad and Friends, right? And how it is exactly what you're saying, right? It's exactly what you say to AT. They are very good on the hands. When it looks bad, you still can't count them out, because one punch can end it all from Broad. They can't always turn the game around. And 200 Bandits, they've also got to be respectful. They've also got to learn to play it clean all the way out.
Yeah, I mean, for example, 200 Bandits have had this recurring issue in most of their games, where around the early game, something disastrous happens. We've seen it in Gucci series, we've seen it in the Rise game. Sometimes they just forget that they need to play a certain way, it feels like. And then they turn it back on around the 15-minute mark when they realize, oh shit, we've got a 1-item tank frontline. We have a 1-item AD carry. We have a 1.5-item control mage. Maybe let's front to back this. Good idea.
And it will be a good idea, but can it be enough of a good idea, right? History would say that Broad are ahead. Now, it's only one game. There's a lot of speculation. This is the best of 3 for the people at home that didn't know, right? We have a bit of time for adaptation. There is a little bit of that kind of what have people learned, because that, as I said, was in week 2, day 1. We have had a lot of games since then. The teams have changed up. The way that they play has changed up. There aren't many similarities between them then and them now. So I do wonder how that is going to change things as well. The one last question that I do have before we start looming towards the picks and bans is, who is going to win? Rory B, kick us off. Who is going to win? What's the scores on the doors?
Right, okay. So in the Venom Crest game earlier this week, I was on desk, and there was an interview after the 2-0 where Venom Crest coach Hayes came on and said he was fearful about 200 Bandits. I believe he said they would actually beat Broad and Friends today. I know I'm pretty sure he's in chat, so I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong there. But overall, I actually think Broad and Friends will give a game away. I think they're going to be a bit sloppy in game 1 and make some critical errors, but I do think they'll clinch it out. So I've got competing on both sides, but at the end of the day, I'm going to say Broad and Friends 2-1.
Okay, Harold?
All right, so I've been going over a little bit of their games, for both of these teams. There is the factor of the team having played together for the entire split, because 200 Bandits have sticked with the entire roster, the entire split. Now, Broad and Friends almost did the same. They had to drop Bear Tree for a game for Nemli because of issues, which is not relative to the game. But changing mid laner going into playoffs, I understand QQR is a great player, but you're changing a player right before going into a team that has shown continued growth and adaptation.
Okay.
So if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm predicting a 2-1 200 Bandits win.
Ooh, okay, a
Ooh.
2-1. Okay, a 2-1. All right. So a little bit of wiggle room there. You know what? I'm going to be bold. I'm just going to say 2-0. I feel like 2-0 Broad. I feel like there's just something about them. I feel like they're going to scale. When it gets to playoffs, I think they get a little bit more serious. They're probably all just laughing in Discord right now if they're hearing this. Like, they're just like, no, we're never serious. But I feel like there's that edge, right? And I also feel like there's that mental edge as well with the fact that they did beat 200 Bandits when they were 8k goal behind. You know, they've done it before. How far can they push that needle before they really lose? You know, that's going to be my prediction, 2-0. I do want to hear from Greyheart a little bit later to see what he does decide to say. But let's talk about the draft, right? Because when we looked at the last game, right, we said, okay, there was a lot of things, like not composition necessarily, but like the way that the two teams played, the way that they've kind of acted up. I will say I feel like the teams have quite similar ways to play. The one thing I want to point out, though, and it does kind of help Harold a little bit here, a little bit less to me, was when they last met, Lunkafor played Kindred, which I feel like is not the champion I'm really expecting him to be on later, Rory.
No, like, if you said his name, I'd immediately think Sinzal. But I don't know, Kindred's fine if your team is willing to play around you, but that does mean you need, ideally, a pushing mid laner who can help you assist in the invades. Kindred's a bit awkward for me because really they're a champion who's based off a crab flip early game, and I've never liked that discrepancy of power between if I get first crab and if I miss it out. I do think Lunkafor can play a lot of champions very well. What I'm not expecting is any mage-style champions. So I'm not really expecting an AP Maokai. I'm not expecting a Lilia or an Elise. I don't think any of those are really going to be picked today.
Okay, that is actually really interesting. That is not what I expected you to say. Lilia was on my things I'm expecting to see. I feel like he's done really well on it recently. But maybe you have that inside information that I don't. You know, Harold, what are you thinking in terms of picks in general? Is there anything that's going to stand out? I also want to kind of talk about this bot lane because bot lane was the most consistent for both two teams with 2 Corki games, I think, in the last 3 games coming in from 200 Bandits, and I believe it was 3 games on Varus, all for Sin coming in from Broad. So do you feel like they're going to stray away from those? Do you feel like the ADC pool has maybe moved, or is the focus changing?
I mean, I had a conversation with Sin after their forgot which series, but I did casted series with Greyheart, and basically he told us, my team's just forcing me to pick Varus if it's open.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is understandable. But I do think there is this priority on like the Varus, the Skarner, the Ashe that has just been buffed, which is gonna, I think, pick up in priority for the bot lane. There's a lot of things cropping up. We're going back towards this meta of like setup AD carries that can dominate the early laning, and I do think Sin is probably preferred to on Elendil for that kind of meta, mostly because of the rest of the players that he has available on his team. He has Hackers, he has QQR. There is power in the solo lanes, so that doesn't necessarily mean that Sin has to put up a Jackie Love type of performance every game.
Yeah, and I'm also glad you mentioned the solo lanes because, like, right, we heard it earlier. Like, you like to talk about Loopy, Rory, right? I feel like Loopy, like, I know Trajan was making the memes about him being a big Ornn player, right? He just defaults into the Ornn, but we've also seen that Urgot, right, has been a little bit dangerous. And I feel like Akers is a very notorious top laner in this, like, league, right? He is a dangerous top laner and has got the better of Loopy in the last match, you know, and has been able to really work a lot of magic against a lot of top laners. So is that potentially a worry, or do you feel like they're going to kind of shift a lot of focus around the rest of the map?
The issue is because Loopy in Champ Select normally gets very high prio in the order, so you're going to be seeing that Ornn come out or that Urgot come out very early on, and Akers has answers to both these champions. So Loopy is going to naturally be on the back foot. I do also believe Akers is just a better player than compared to Loopy. So top lane is going to be really interesting, but if there's no solo kills coming out, if it's not a tank v tank matchup, I'll add. If Akers is on a kill champ like the Camille, like the Mbessa, I'm expecting Akers to get a solo kill in each game that's played together.
Oh, Oh, in each
Yeah,
game
in each game.
is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Okay, I do believe. I just want to ask production: are we close to draft? Because I seen some leaks that are not. They're not gonna. We're gonna say anything. Oh, maybe drafts happen. Maybe we're not having drafts. Not really sure here. Maybe production can enlighten me on that one. But
We've got a pinata of a draft here. It's just all going to get thrown at us at one time.
I see something. I don't know how to
yeah.
feel.
Yeah, I don't know if we're looking at the same something, because there's one thing that we talked about earlier that I'm seeing that I'm like, okay, I feel
Oh,
good.
come on!
I feel good for how I'm feeling. But there's another little something later down the draft on the left that is that what you're talking about, Harold? That's a little bit.
There's two things right at the top, and then there's the thing
Yes.
at the bottom, and what?
Okay.
What happened?
We should probably run through this.
Yes.
Instead
so
of
we
teasing
we
chat.
can talk about it. I don't know if we can actually bring that screenshot onto the screen, production, and maybe we can then just talk about it from the darkness that is the draft. So then people at home don't have to just like imagine or draw it out themselves. Okay, perfect. All right, here we go. We have it on the screen, and let's talk about it. Right. So the things we were losing our mind about. Yeah, Skarner has been locked in by Brod. Also, for me personally, Kassadin on the map. Let's break it down how it would have obviously gone through. So Skarner first pick, right?
How are we letting Skarner through?
It's yeah.
I don't know.
Are we really banning Maokai and leaving Skarner up? I feel like Maokai is nowhere near as strong as Skarner in the current meta. Like, yes, he's strong. Yes, he's picked a lot. But he's normally picked a lot because the Skarner's banned.
I have campaigned on this broadcast so much about banning Skarner if you're red side, because the champion is just too strong, and then for
I
Okay,
will. I
a
will.
player.
I will
I'm
swallow
going
my
to
pride.
take some control. I'm going to take some
Yeah.
control.
Player.
So, Lilia is a pick I thought was going to happen, right? That was
Okay.
what I was expecting. It's what I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Like I think that Lilia has just looked really good for Lungfa. I also think it is quite good into these tanks, right? The fact that you get true damage, you can deal with it. You move around a lot faster. Skarner will be able to catch you potentially if you don't get nifty and shifty with it. However, you talked about the Ashe, Harold. I don't feel like Ashe is going to have that much fun.
No, really, no. There's way too much flying at the Ashe for the Ashe to have a good time this game. The more I look at these drafts, the more I like the Kassadin pick, actually. There is nothing that can like legitimately stop you from blowing up the entire enemy team if you manage to get in on the flank. Like,
Yeah.
It rounds out the draft really well. The broad composition all wants to go in. Not a fan of the Lulu with the Tristana. But
I was about to talk about that. Yeah, it's the lesser seen Yordle pairing.
Yes. You can expand on it if you want, because I do agree. I think that is one of the weirder parts of Brod's draft, right? The fact they went Lulu with the Tristana. But I guess it also maybe makes their draft a bit scarier, because, okay, we think about it as an ADC buffer, but what if Lulu just ults Kassadin?
Well, the thing about Kassadin is he's dive, right? So normally he's diving straight into the enemy team. Lulu doesn't want to be near the enemy team. So yeah, she's going to have to preemptively buff him up before he gets in, and then she can't really do much if she's being zoned out by the threat of the Lilia Sleep and the Syndra knockback. So it's going to be very interesting how they maneuver those team fights, or is Sin's just going to stay on the outskirts getting buffed up by Jamsu, just waiting for those natural W resets to come in?
Okay. No, I'm definitely hearing it. Also, I think the rail into the Lulu, the fact that you can break the shields, right? There is a little bit of synergy there coming in from the bottom, which I feel like could definitely go half 200 bandits. The one thing I want to talk about is the tempo, right? Harold,
yes.
I feel like this is all on 200B to basically run this early game. If they do not get themselves ahead early, I think it is looking like a rough game.
Yeah, I mean, they have the picks for it. The Gnar is a well-known like lane bully into the Cassante, the spacing. And Gnar always fits this niche of having the possibility to be an engaged champion, but also being a lane bully, being able to just deny the enemy top laner from having fun, basically. The big factor for me in this 200 bandits comp is they have to play around that enchanted crystal arrow timer. Their pick is really strong because if you land an arrow, scatter the weak, and unleash power, that target is probably dead.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna come down to execution. It's gonna come down to being able to put this Lilia in a position where she can deny the Skarner plays, because the Lilia will outtempo the Skarner. As soon as she picks up Faded Ashes, she will outclear. She will just become this farming machine that is going to deny the Skarner so much tempo on the map, also because of her movement speed. I talk a lot about the Skarner E, his possibility to gang through walls, to make these creative engage angles. Doesn't really matter if there's a Lilia running at you at Mach 10.
Okay, well, with that being said, we're not going to have to wait too much longer. We are going to be going into game. I'm about to hand it over to our casters for this series. It is yourself, Harold, so we're going to be saying goodbye to you. And it is Greyheart to take us through game 1.
Thank you so much, J-Real. Surprise indeed. I'll tell you what, you speak about Spider-Man memes. I saw someone who looked just like you a minute ago. It was incredible. But yeah, we're coming into the game. Really, really excited for this one. I feel like I have to answer J-Real's question about what my prediction is going to be. I'm sort of known because of the amount of time I've known these guys in the scene for being a bit of a broad bro myself. I'm going to be unbiased and give you my complete unbiased opinion. I think this is going to come down to a deciding factor, and that deciding factor, Harold, is going to be based entirely on something a little kid said to me on a tennis court the other day. And he said to me, Stan, why does Cristiano Ronaldo always clean his room?
I don't know, Stan.
Because he's not Messi. And I think at the end of the day, this game is going to come down to which team is not Messi. Both of these teams, as you've said in your pre-show there, they've shown that they have very much the ability to play some very nice legends. They have macro ability, but they can both be a little bit messy. They can both play like pub teams at times. I'm looking to see who comes in here, plays a solid performance. I think it's a huge thing they've got Kiko coming in, because this is a player who I have cast on so many finals and so many big stages, who I know can perform, and now they're being put on this brilliant scaling champion, Kassadin, who maybe you wouldn't have expected the likes of BO3 to be playing. I think that's going to make all the difference. I'm going to go straight down and say Brod 2-0 on this one. But I'm all about, 200 bandits proving me wrong on this one and coming out swinging. This is a team who, put such an amazing performance previously against them, going all the way back to week 2, day 1. I'm excited. I'm so excited that now I get to tell you we're onto the Rift. It's taken a little while to get here, folks, but myself and Harold will be bringing you all of this action in its fullest.
Yeah, we're finally onto the Rift. We see the composition lined up now. The more I look at Kassadin, the more I look at that blue side comp from Broad, the more I think, how did they get away with this? On the other team, you have the 200 bandits in the vein of Alibaba, but Broad really pulled off a heist in that. It is mind-boggling to me the way they.
I'll tell you what. Nothing says two pub teams like two teams just marching 5v5 into each other. We are going to see these two teams clash as we have Rel turning the corner here. First kill of this series could well be coming in the next 12 seconds. Or we're going to see that Airy Pop going to get a little, Comet Pop getting a little knockdown. Good damage being put down already. Kassan having to back away from the front line, but the real damage has been put onto Rel with the Ignite burning. Tristana gets the first kill. Sin able to get that one, but giving up their life in return to JB.
So 1-for-1 at the end of the day. The Tristana does burn the flash for the chase. Kenny also burns both of his sums, but there is 3 sums burned on the side of Broad. So
yes, but they got that first blood. Unfortunately, of course, no extra gold for that these days.
Yeah, no extra gold for it, but it starts working you towards that feat of strength. Also, the Tristana, since she died, she got a reset.
Yeah, she got a reset. Picks up the dagger going into lane, whereas we're not going to see time for a reset on the Syndra, who's just going to have that ring and the pots to set up in that lane, but we'll have the early advantage up against the Kassadin nonetheless. As we get into this laning phase, with so many summoners being burnt, which of these two sides do you expect to be able to put a little bit more aggression down towards the other?
I would hope 200 bandits just use the power of the ass to just keep running at this Lulu, which we just saw, to be honest.
Yeah, the power of the Ash, the power of the CC you can get out of the Rel, it's all there.
Yeah, I mean, and then we see... Akers has not picked up a single minion.
No. We talked. I say we. I wasn't there, but I listened to you guys talking about the potential that we're going to have a Loopy on this Gnar with the ability to bully out Axis Cassandra, and already we're seeing just how well that's working out. Those and Tofu strikes not coming in clutch just yet, as the first minion is secured for Cassandra in the top lane.
Hell yeah, that extra 20 gold buyout on average. As we see more scrapping in the bot lane, Kenny just misses the crash down, so gets punished.
Next flash into crash down, not quite working out, but more pressure being put down. Good trade back of damage, however, and this Tristana already putting that extra little bit of attack speed to good use.
Yeah, I mean, the Tristana is just going to use that extra dagger to just start pressuring the Ashe a little bit more. The Ashe managed to pick up the kill on the invade on the trade. It was the Syndra who picked up the kill, which is gonna help in this laning phase. As much as the Syndra does have the range, he had to poke to fight. He's fighting in bot.
Level 3 gets hit, and a straight bit of aggression onto the Lulu. Rocket jump force from Tristana, but more crucially, the flash force from the Lulu.
Yeah, flash force from the Lulu, which means now there is no flashes for the next 2 minutes in this bot lane. Tristana is going to have her back in 2 minutes 30, which is likely going to set up for a Lunka for early play. I've harped on about this player anytime I could on broadcast. I feel that, as I said, he is my vote for MVP for the split.
Really?
There's so much good work done by this player for this 200 bandit side, being the catalyst of the early game. A really good trigger to play around in the mid-game fights. He has to be the one, again, making it happen for this 200 bandit side.
And meanwhile, on the other side, you've got Tofu, who's had solid performances themselves. I mean, just going back, to what that matchup against Venomcrest, actually doing a lot of the early good work, and has been allowed the Skarner, which we can now see wrapping around, looking for potential dive on bot.
Yeah, this is the threat of giving the Skarner, leaving the Skarner open. As he's just gonna run at Elendil.
Ashe thought this one out through the volley into the bush, correctly guessing where support and jungler were, but still having to give up their flash in this trade nonetheless.
Yeah, burning the flash on the Ashe. No cleanse could get you away there. No barrier burned. I could have burned the barrier to have a beneficial trade. The cooldown is relatively low on that summoner, but I do understand not willing to burn 2 sums on just a regular Skarner.
Corel. This is a camp and a half on bot side. Through that wall's going to come. Tofu getting aggressive on Kenny. He's polymorphed as well, unable to do very much. Ignite's put down. It's going to be a turret taking the life of the Lulu, but most crucially, Skarner able to secure their first kill, not giving up their life in return as well.
And the Lulu wasn't executed. She wasn't hit at all by Kenny. So it's just a free kill for naught, basically, which gets brought 1 kill closer to that, that feat of warfare that they're trying to pick up to guarantee themselves a little extra stats going into the late game.
Which I feel like given... I was just going to say, I feel like given that we thought the early pressure was going to come more so out of 200 bandits, they'll be delighted to have been able to get 2 of those 3 early kills that little bit quicker.
Yeah, then Tristana also picking up the assist on that. Just keep piling the money into this. How do you define Tristana? Is she just a scaling carry, or is she just an abomination of stats?
Scaling carry for sure, but when I think about Tristana and what I think about some of the most optimal things you can do, it's just a turret pushing monster, sort of on the same level as the likes of a really fed Jinx. It's just going to absolutely rip through those turrets like there's no tomorrow. Speaking of no tomorrow, there may be no turret to tomorrow for the Flash plus Ashe. Rocket jump forward, and we're going to see Sid getting the good damage down, and with the explosion, we'll see the kill secured, and that's the feats of warfare right there, right now. Meanwhile, Voidgrub's being taken by a Lunkafer.
Yeah, Lunkafer has kind of decided, screw you guys, you can do all the fighting, I'm just gonna farm. He is 20 CS up, almost 30 CS up on his jungle counterpart, but...
And why do you think that is exactly?
Might
it have something to do with the fact that we've seen a 10-minute camp at the 6-minute mark?
Possibly. And it's kind of... You're kind of just trading this early game, I mean... It's kind of the trade-off, I guess, you decided to make in draft. You left open the Skarner, so you can guarantee yourselves the Lilia to have that stronger 1-2 item spike coming out from the jungle, to have that additional carry on top of your already present 3 carry comp.
Just meanwhile, looking at topside right now, Harold, credit where it's due. Akka's doing a good job on pulling back that CS difference and actually becoming relevant in this lane, managing to hold their own up against this Gnar. Obviously, that one assist early on for the Gnar from the invade. However, more crucially is what's been happening since. Down on bot side, Lungfo gets involved, makes the plays we're talking about, takes the 2 kills for himself, Harold.
Dark Seal early buy, 4 stacks on the Dark Seal, 60 CS, 2-0-1. Lunkafer is here. I am so happy to see this player actually just decide that, you know what? Brought this, brought that, screw it, I'm just gonna show up.
Showing up and making their intentions known. Like you say, that Dark Seal already getting stacking now, and that's going to be pretty scary if that continues as this game progresses. One of the other champions that we have to talk about, especially as we get towards the late game, is there in mid lane. It's the return of QQR playing on the Kassadin. Firstly, talking about the champion, obviously you can see so much scale coming in from the Kassadin, who's put down a lot of aggression, and with a little bit of help from the Ignite is able to secure the kill. Jamsu taking that one for themselves with said Ignite. But QQ will be very happy to have a little bit of time to try and farm up. Has dropped really heavily down in CS and Syndrus, somewhat unsurprisingly given the laning phase. But a great return here to the UK scene for the player who we've obviously seen a lot in the likes of Lions Creed Academy and through lots of the university and Insomnia scenes over the years.
Yeah, I was just looking over at the scoreboards and then the inventories. I guess it's good that the Lulu picked up that kill because she also has a Dark Seal.
Of course she does. Dark Seals for all.
Steal. It's
get one on Cassandra.
stat secure.
I hear it's great. So yeah, that's it. Absolutely stat secured, and that's gonna make life even harder for Ash on bot side.
I feel like QQR. It's not a player, of course. I know too much, being new to the UK scene and all. But you know, I saw his name for the first time this evening, and I've heard basically everybody that's working tonight talking about how great this player is, which. I don't know. I'm expecting good things, you know, but you know. So in my book, you have to show up when I'm watching you. You know, I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, he's the greatest player to ever live, and I've never watched him.
I completely agree, but I'm also gonna say, you know, give him 15 minutes to cook. You know, this is a Kassadin, and if we see this Kassadin wrecking the faces of the backline later on, then, you know, maybe you can see what we're all talking about with QQR. If they int it down the rift, then, you know, we may have to hold our hands up slightly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the draft from Broad is very suited for this Kassadin to just wreck house in the mid game. Even doesn't necessarily need at level 16. He just needs a little bit more stats once he's gonna complete this Rod of Ages. Once he's gonna complete the Malignants or the Seraphs, the Kassadin just has this power window that I feel like we harp on every time we see a Kassadin about level 16 Kassadin, level 16 Kassadin. The 2-item spike is gonna come way before that usually, and that 2-item spike is terrifying. He's just gonna start having infinite mana, infinite health, and just gonna keep fighting and fighting and fighting. As we see a lane swap come through, we see Sin in the top lane just trying to bully out the Gnar, but Gnar has range.
That does have range. A bit of aggression being put down by the Realm straight away. That's Jamson to flash away. UBR1, they're put to sleep by Lungfer, who secures their 3rd of the game, looking to get even more. Tofu flashing away. Will it be enough? Yes, it will not be enough. That's a hell of a sentence. And with those 2 kills secured, we are going to see 200 bandits walking the way of the boy grubs. Instead, turning their attention back to Sin, who stuck around for too long with no friends around.
Oh boy, Broad, you disrespected my guy. Now there is a Lilia with a Leandris and 9 stacks on the Dark Seal. This is, as much as we said that there was so many good things that the Broad bot lane did in the early game. You know, Jamsu also roaming up to the mid lane, securing the kill onto the Syndra, and then now there's just this Lilia on the Rift though. And I feel like all of us, everybody on the Rift is just looking at this deer running at you at Mach 10.
Yeah, it's quite scary when you get caught in. It's quite scary when you get caught in the headlights of the deer, and nature sort of flips it around on you, isn't it? It's definitely going to be something that Broad are going to have to find a way to deal with, because we talked about all the backline invasion potential that Broad have to try and get onto, let's say, the Ashe for 200. But what if they've just got a layer running down the likes of Triss? That's going to be very, very, very tough to deal with.
And now that Dark Seal has been turned into a book, I know dear friend of mine and a friend of yours, Nemera, is in chat, and there's book purchased immediately upon having the money to buy them back.
Alex, who has a particularly fun book themselves, by the way. I forgot to tell you this when I was casting the other day, if you're out there listening, Nim, but I, having seen your Definite book and how great it was, decided next time I bought a notebook, I needed it to be something fun. And if you stick around till the end of the game, next time I'm on camp, I will show you just how amazingly fun my new notebook is, and you will be proud, friend. But moving on to other people who are going to be proud. Right now, it looks like Team 200 Bandits proud of securing themselves a third neutral objective, and by such, able to equalise out the fact that they had obviously earlier on lost out on those 3 kills. Now it all comes down to who secures the first trade.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume at this point it's probably going to be put pressure on this top lane, as we see QQR just diving on top of Loopy, tanking the turret for Akers to secure the kill. Plate goes down. Where are you getting the pressure, though? There is 6 grubs on for 200 Bandits.
It's a good little kill. It is a nice little bit of extra gold from the turret plate as well, but that's still a Kassadin that is even further down in CS now. 40 CS behind JB's Syndra, who's just able to free push in mid. And yeah, it's certainly an early game that feels like it's gone heavily in favour of 200 Bandits, and it makes me ask the question, you know, especially in league terms, which is stronger, 200 Bandits or 100 Thieves? Meanwhile, we are going to see so much damage, just absolutely eviscerating the bot lane duo. That's 2 kills for JB. Power unleashed. Turret soon to be secure.
Yeah, this 200 Bandits really said, you know, we may be the underdogs, but we're not gonna, you know, take it lying down. We said it before the games. We said it before after we saw the first kills go down. We see more trading in the top side.
Skarner arrives just in time to get narred into a wall. Loopy will have to flash away from the impending impale.
Good flash from Loopy, you know, denies the trade. I feel like Akers could have probably used the all-out to try and buffer the CC from the Gnar and try and just extend that trade, but, you know, the flash is burnt on the side of Loopy. You know, when this Gnar is mini, it's going to be really simple to dive him, as we saw before from the Kassadin. As we see more trading in the bot side, Lunka4 doesn't really have vision in the enemy jungle, but he's just trading aggressively because he knows the current power budget he has.
Kassadin, meanwhile, able to find a side lane, able to get a little bit of the CS back that they've been losing out on earlier on. Overall, this early game does feel like it's been going the way of 200 Bandits, and a big part of that for me, Harold, comes down to the fact that they just seem to have a little bit more presence in securing these rotations and just turning things over and making life difficult for Rob a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I mean, their composition is excellent at denying so much potential, but as we see more fighting topside, and
Akers is going all out, forcing the flash on to Andil already. Ash trying to get away, trying to find slow. Good Kaiden coming through with the volley, connects time and time again. It does leave Kenny slightly left for dead, however, still able to get themselves away despite the rocks being thrown straight into the face. Now, with Loopy able to get up towards the top side, the danger is reduced, and Elendil and Kenny will be able to survive to tell the tale.
So well played by the bot lane duo of 200 Bandits to just deny all of the space and all of the potential of just getting caught by this, you know, double tank combo off the top side of from the top side of Broad. I feel like 200 Bandits have showed up a lot more warmed up than Broad for this first game.
Yeah, it definitely feels this way, and it sort of felt that little way when we go back and watch this matchup back in week 2 of the Four Nations, and it just feels like history repeating itself early on. However, in that game, you know, obviously Brod did eventually come out the winners, so, you know, 200 Bandits still got a long way to go to cross that finishing line, especially when you look at the scaling power on the team opposite them, the Tristana, the Kassadin especially.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely scaling threats, you know, there's the league community has a Kassadin level 16 timer meme for, you know, almost for as long as the champion existed. But on the other side, you've got you're not really like denying yourself scale. You didn't like sack scaling to go for an early game dominance comp. You have a Syndra that once she reaches those 120 shards, she's just going to she's probably going to be able to blow up the Tristana even through all of the Lulu healing. There's this Lilia that's already super accelerated that, you know, Lilia doesn't really lose power once she has it.
It's a fair point. And yeah, I do wonder how things are gonna go as we get towards that late stage. And I suppose it depends a little bit on just how dominant 200 are able to continue being. Because, you know, going back to our earlier puns about which team plays more messy, so far, that has been Broad Friends who have been guilty of that. And if that continues, I expect 200 Bandits to be able to push their advantages. But if in closing out this game 200 Bandits get a little bit messy, then it could be a different tale.
Yeah, 200 Bandits really have to keep it composed. I will say their comp is really, really strong at keeping a fight going the way they want it because of the amount of crowd control and just the disruption they have. There's the Ash Souls, there's the Syndra stuns, there's the Rel Engage, there's the Nars. There is so many tools available to this 200 Bandits comp to just deny chaos, basically. And Broad have thrived around chaos.
They haven't. A little bit of the chaos coming the way of the Skarner right now. Finds himself so incredibly caught, pulled back by the Magnet, and with the flash not carrying them over the wall, it's going to be Undeal able to secure essentially a free kill because essentially Tofu just got greedy trying to hang around for potential Dragon Steel. Now it's going to be QQR who's completely caught. The question is, what can the rest of their team get done while 3 chase down this Kassadin and delete them from the map?
Kenny picks up a kill. What the eternal struggle of picking up Magi's and not getting any more kills.
I mean, still 13 stacks. They're not going to be sad.
Yeah, but you know, it could have been 17 or 15 at this point.
No, yeah, fair point. Meanwhile, looks like there could be some more potential for kills coming our way. Kenny chasing down Sin, who's already used that rocket jump. Does have the flash available, just trying to see if they can hold it longer. And I have to eat my words on that. I'm guessing that flash wasn't available. Otherwise, I think we probably would have seen Sin escape, maybe just very slightly off cooldown.
Or maybe Sin just disrespected the timer or didn't want to burn flash to just give up a kill to a support, I guess. You know, it's at the end of the day, yeah, you die, but you're giving up a kill to the Rel. You're not giving up a kill to the Syndra or to the Ash.
Yeah, fair point.
Which, you know, I guess you're trying to conserve as many resources for, you know, that next 5v5 that you're trying to take. But at this point, I feel like Broad, if they take a 5v5, it's not up to them to decide how the fight goes. It needs to be 200 bandits dropping the ball.
One thing I have to apologise. I can't remember. I think it was you who said it, but it may have been Rory during our little bit of an analysis. While you were talking before the game, one of the things that was brought up was the fact that this is a 200 Bandits team that has kept that same roster going all the way through this season. As a result, the synergy that we're seeing from them here just seems so much more dominant than the slight lack of cohesion that we're seeing in this messiness from Broad and Friends.
Yeah, I mean, Broad and Friends, you know, they've largely retained the same roster they had, you know, Nemli as a sub. I think it was us two that casted game, right?
Yeah, we
had Nemli on the
had
Nico.
Nemli playing instead of BO3. I think we did that over on the Broad and Friends stream, and obviously this is now the third mid laner that we're seeing this season coming in, and a first game for QQR. So it's yeah, like you say, it's a big time to have to show up. Ashkan has been started up, by the way.
Alakan has been started up. Actors is just getting
Teleport is
free time
available.
to push in the top lane. Teleport is available for both top laners and both mid laners. But I don't know if you want to actually take the risk to fight this as Broad and Friends. This is a Ruinous Atakan. It's not the Voracious. It's not the GA. It's just extra stats on the soul. But Tofu will look to go in.
I think Tofu has decided they can't afford to let this one go over easily. They attempt to get the steal, but the smite is too early. Lilia secures Atakan, and Syndra gets the kill onto the Skarner. We do see a turret falling, going the way of Kasant, but the teleport that joined was Loopy playing for the team. And yes, you've given this one up now, and what you've given up, okay, it might not be a GA, but it is going to be these enhanced 6 Void Grubs, which, as my mirror quite rightly pointed out earlier on this week, essentially the same as having 8 massive Void Grubs just knocking down the turret.
Yeah, I mean, once you already have secured so many resources and
at
so
that.
many neutrals in this early game, yeah, the towers are kind of made of butter right now. And not even cold butter, that, you know, it's kind of solid, you kind of just have to put some force in it. That is just microwaved butter.
Butter that is melting quickly under the hot knife of 200 bandits, whose knife seems to be going through more than just butter at this point. It seems to be melting anything and anyone it faces off against. But part of that is because we've truly not seen a team fight. The last couple of kills, especially onto Tofu, have just been ones where the jungler sort of stuck their nose and maybe a little bit too close to a potential fight that's going on, wrist to steel that just wasn't quite working out. We're still yet to witness a big team fight, and it feels like Brawl and Friends are just trying to buy time.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to buy time for a composition that does need time. You know, this Castellan has only one item, level 16, but just now he picks up his Seraphs. The Syndra has 2.5 items. She is down in XP. She's level 14 to the level 16 in the Castellan. Of course, thanks to the Thrall of Ages extra level, you know, he's always going to have that advantage in XP. But the Syndra is also grouped a lot, which does give you that XP diminishing rewards.
Teleport.
There is so much to look at for these two comps. Oh,
Caston deciding to flex a little bit of these new muscles and coming up topside, and despite the unleashed power, easily taking the kill onto the Syndra. And no real response in return from 200 bandits as this happens, and now they have to defend their inhibitor turret.
you know, I was talking up about like what this mid lane matchup happened, and then QPR
Immediately.
was like, you know what, I'm just gonna
Oh,
TP
no.
top and kill the enemy in the mid lane.
That was a very brave rocket jump from Sin. Does eventually get the reset to be able to get out, but has Lilia chasing them down, flashing away. But I don't think that's enough, because unlike the deer being in the headlights, now it is the Yordle who is, and gets absolutely deleted from map. Double kill coming in. Those Magi stacks finally arriving. 23 now. Castin does find the battle line, does take down the Ash, but look at the rest of the team getting deleted. And that will be that, as QQR tries to rift walk out to safety and just about manages to do so.
The rift walk from the Cassidy saving him from almost guaranteed death. This the Seraphs as well popping and denying so much damage from the Lilia. But yeah, that's a 25 Magi stack Lilia.
Scary.
This is
very
a
scary.
very scary deer. You know, it was Captain Flowers that once said the best counter to a deer is a shotgun. But where's the shotgun on broadside?
I like that you're getting a Captain Flowers reference in a Skarner game as well. I think that's pretty on the nose. And what we are seeing now, with Atakan having been secured, a third dragon being taken for 200 bandits, Baron is going to be the next neutral objective to spawn. And this is a real opportunity for 200 bandits to flex the muscles, which they have been able to get. They had that one minor catch up against the Syndra, but then turned things beautifully against their opposition. Now just how can they play around this next objective, Harold?
Yeah, I think the burden of execution on 200 bandits is literally to just wait for it broad to be overstep to try and make a catch. We know, you know, we have, as much as it is painful to say, there's 2 expendable lives on 200 bandits and one of them's gonna die right now.
It looks that way indeed. Can he try and get to the safety of the other side of that Baron wall, but with no flash available, too many leaps had already taken place. Now, it looks like if anyone, Broad are going to start this Baron up. This feels slightly desperate. This feels like a questionable decision. Teleports are being channeled, but it's going to be Gnar who arrives first. Not in Mega Gnar, however, so takes a lot more damage. Luffy going lower and lower. Castin already finding the Ash in the back line, getting a good amount of damage down. Tristana does take the Gnar in return for the death of the Casting. Kasant now having joined the fight.
And as we were saying earlier, the burden of, you know, execution is on 200 bandits to not make the mistakes to give Broad the window. They split up. They take a fight where they don't have every member available. Lunkafor kind of caught greeting. JB might pay the price.
Tofu trying to find something on Jamie, but it is Lunkafor who is absolutely brutalizing everybody. No hunters this time, only the hunted. The deer strikes again. 8-0 and 7. Make it 9-0 and 7. Make mine a Baron.
That's one scary deer to see in your headlights. That is Lunkafor just putting 200 bandits on his back in this first game. You know, we were criticizing the draft, like getting Skarner on blue side. What happened? What was the decision that was like, we're gonna give up this super strong jungler that we've had so much success with as well? Well,
Caston, they want to make something happen here. The Baron is very, very low. All out aggression being put on by Akers. The Baron is going to be secured courtesy of the smite from that hero. Lunkenfer and now QQR left. Rift walking for the hills. Again, trying to get damage onto Lunkenfer, trying to remove some of those Magi stacks. But the enchanted crystal arrow will pass through the Zonya's body of QQR and get stunned up against the wall. It is going to be a nice wild growth coming in. Fine time for QQR. Lunkenfer maybe might finally give up their life, but no. The turret trading is absolutely perfect from the Baron empowered 200 Bandits team.
Yeah, this is an execution at this point from the side of 200 Bandits. They're playing with confidence. They're playing with this fire that we were expecting from a team like them. You know, they've never went down without a fight. And this game really proves that, yeah, you know, they just woke up saying, yeah, Broad may be good, but we know what we're worth. We know what we have to do to make sure this game never gets out of our grasp. And I've talked so much about this player, and there's a reason for it. Lunkenfer, he's done so much for this team throughout the split, putting up major performances on the Skarner, on the carry.
Scatter there, stopping Tofu from getting from the wall, hasn't flashed away, does get the wild growth, does get a good impale, buys a little bit of time for some damage to come down. Rel giving up their life in trades, jungler for support so far, but crucially the Kassadin is dead. Tristana trying to do what they are, but they are so insanely low. Lunkenfor manages to get themselves another one still alive, still deathless in this game.
As the chase keeps going, it is a 3-for-3 at the end of the day, and that will almost always benefit the team that's on the back foot, going even. But again, at this point, I feel like there are 3 expendable members on the side of 200 Bandits. You're just playing to protect the sale.
Oh, Jamsu just steps forwards too far, and JB drops the bomb, or in this case, the ball. And with all those shards, that's a little Yordle hat that we're going to be seeing stuck on the rift without a body to be attached to for a while.
Yeah, I mean, as we were saying, it's a two-man show for 200 Bandits at this point. There's 3 expendable members, but at the end of the fight, if the Lily is alive, you've won the fight. The soul is about to go down.
I do. I like that. If one of your champions is alive at the end of the fight, you'll probably have won the fight. Yeah, that does make sense. But especially with it being the Lilia, I do raise the question of QQR's targeting at this point as the Enchanted Crystal Arrow hits from deep. Stun after stun. Sleep now for Tofu. There will be no jungler to try and contest, to try and steal away a potential soul that is now going down. The Drowsy connects, and there won't be any more rift walking as Zonya buys a little bit of time. The flash away. QQR trying to put some separation and trying to find time for him and the rest of the team, but he's being chased down, being deleted again.
Yeah, and as we were talking about, the scaling factor from Broad is certainly there. They won't have the time to get there to, you know, guarantee that Kassadin can actually just rift walk and blow up somebody. There's no time anymore. Your timer's run out. You don't get to make the choices anymore. This game is in 200 Bandits' hand, and it is also in their hands if they want to, you know, make a repeat of week 2-1 and just give up a 1 game to Broad again.
It is theirs to lose at this point. I just wanted to touch on QQR's focus, the fact that so often they delete the Ashe, but the Ashe doesn't really feel like the big difference maker. We are going to see a nice impale coming onto a Gnar, who looks like they will die on this one as Sin's able to find that one, getting himself a little bit safety, pushing himself away from Lunkenfor. Cunning is meanwhile just distracting the Tristana. Cassandra does all they can, but QQR still hasn't respawned from that last kill they gave up by the Infernal Dragon. Finally, they're able to get out. Finally, they're able to get the Rift Walk. Can they turn that damage on to the Lilia? It seems like the answer is no. Nice and time rocket throw punches away from the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, but the Nexus is being forced down. Kenny dies, but the Nexus is gone, and 200 Bandits are 1 game away from progressing.
Is strong enough to make the challenge. They take game 1 in convincing fashion. That is an excellent move.
It's fluffy as well. It's like really soft. But no, all joking aside, what a fantastic performance. What a statement being made there.
Yeah, statement game. You know, it's hard to not talk about this guy after what we just seen. I've talked about him so much. It feels like I'm kind of just this one person fan club of this jungler, but he's done so much for this team. He's gotten. This is a statement game, and I feel like you're gonna have to drop 3 bans on jungle first phase next game. But if this guy can do this after giving up the Skarner, what else can he do?
Next game is going to be fascinating. Draft is going to be fascinating. We can't wait to see all that. But wait, you will have to do. We're going to a small break, but stick around because we'll bring you game 2 in this best of 3 series straight after this.
And we are back after game 1, which, you know what? 200 bandits came and they did not come to play nice games. They looked phenomenal in game 1, right? I feel like Broad, I feel like they never really got off the mark, to be honest. Like, they had an all right early game, but 200 bandits were always that one step ahead and Broad were always chasing and they never caught up, Rory.
Yeah, and look, I've got to put my hands in the air right now and say, I said Lunker for maybe not bringing out the Lilia. Was I wrong as hell? Actually, an incredibly good counter to the Skarner, obviously, Lilia Tankula also can one of the few champs that can outmaneuver a Skarner. And on that, Lunker just took over that game.
Yeah, it is a staple that what we've seen so far, right? We talked about it a little bit in the pre. We talked about it when we saw the teams. Like, I feel like Lunker, he just gets it done for the team, right? And it's something that I talked about when we talked about the last game, right, where he was on Kindred. He had a really good game on the Kindred. but he wasn't able to be as kind of dynamic in the game because of the fact that the Kindred is just the ADC, right? So you're not going to have that same capability to set up with CC to get those early ganks off and stuff. So I feel like now that he's on the things like the Lily, and now that he's playing things that give a little bit more boost to the team and can do a lot more for himself, like it's dangerous, you know, like he can also play that Wukong. He's done it recently, right? Can be very promising, right? You said the Xin Zhao as well. So that there's options, and I feel like banning him out is not going to be the way that Broad go. Broad, I feel like this is that thing. I feel like Broad, if they were like 10% stronger, win some of those moments, right? I think I'm thinking about the one where Tristana jumps in onto the Ashe, almost kills the Ashe, but not enough damage. Then it's a weird fight where the Lilia comes in and the rest of the team from 200 turn up. And Harold, it just felt like Broad, you know, like I said, if they were just that 10% stronger in these moments, maybe they get those wins and they can start throwing their weight around themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we saw QQR as soon as he picked up the level 16, the 2-item spike for the Kassadin. He was trying to make plays happen. He was trying to find those nukes on the backline. He was trying to like disrupt the fight, make it complicated for 200 bandits to play. But it's really difficult to play a disruptive fight when the enemy team can sack off those 1-2 members, even though, you know, you're sacking off technically, you're sacking off your AD carry. In this game, is just, my AD carry that is that big whoop. The Lilia still running at Mach 10 at your backline.
Yeah.
It's there's a beauty in the simplicity of the way the 200 bandits decided to pick apart Broad's playstyle. They basically just said, we know you're gonna run at us. We know you're gonna try and make some leads happen, especially in the bot side where you have this Tristana that is reliant on having a lead to be a relevant champion come mid game, come late game. We're just gonna ignore all of that. We're going to match you pound for pound in topside skirmishes where we know we're stronger because the Syndra has the early prio into the Kassadin. The Gnar will get the prio into the Cassante matchup. And as we saw, the Lilia was just being able to vacuum up so much farm in the jungle. It just made it irrelevant what Broad tried to do on the bot side. Because for all the time Tofu spent setting up Sin to become this big threat in the mid game, Lunkafor was just saying, I'm gonna be the threat. You're gonna have to deal with me.
And I do want to touch, Lilias generally do get a CS lead when they're in the jungle, and this was exacerbated in this situation because Skarner spent so much of his early time in the bot side. But what was really important is this Tristana was set up for greatness by all this pressure put onto the Ashe. The Tristana should have been gifted so many plates, right? Such a big CS lead. But she was never really able to convert that into anything. And that's really where Broad and Friends fell apart. Because you got your Cassin, he's fine, he's chilling, he's scaling. You got your Cassante, he's fine, he's chilling, he's scaling. The Tristana is your holy grail of the first 20 minutes of your game. And you just couldn't get anything great out of her.
I do agree. I feel like it fell a little bit flat from Broad, you know, and maybe it was just game one, right? Maybe it's just game one. You know, it's a best of 3. It's not all over if you are a Broad fan in the audience, right? There's 2 more games, but 200 bandits, they came out warm, right? They maybe even hot, right? You know what I mean? They moved, they came out swinging, they were making plays from the get-go. They're looking really good, and to be honest, they can just keep that power going, right? They got the momentum now, keep the ball rolling into game number 2. If they pick up the win here, they're already on their way to the upper bracket against Venomcrest, right? Yeah. They will have no more heavy lifting to do to get themselves in a really good position to set themselves up for a potential ticket to the finals. Broad, they don't want to lose here, because if you lose, you go all the way down, right? It's big stakes. Yes, you're not out of the playoffs, but it does make the game so much harder to climb your way to what everyone is looking for, which is the trophy for the winter season. And I've got to ask, I don't really know what to expect from Broad to switch it up, because if I'm 200 bandits, right, they can now just play the game of, okay, we did it once, we can just do it again. So Harold, what are you expecting as we're about to go into draft?
Well, there's going to have to be an adjustment in the way you draft for your team. You know, you've got, you know, Akers has been, we've said it before this game, he's been this extremely versatile top laner who can play carries, can play tanks. I feel like you have to kind of go into a game with the idea of we can't draft lanes that just come, like, we can't draft 2 lanes that come online so much later.
Yeah.
And we just have to put all our eggs in one basket, and hopefully on the enemy team there's nobody that's just going to match the tempo of that carrier we're trying to get ahead.
Yeah, and I'm going to quote Greyheart here because he did put it in chat, and I want to give him the credit for it. But I do agree, right, with what he's going to say, which is easier comps. You know, if Broad just plays something that is very simple, they just have to use the mechanics of themselves and their knowledge of the game to execute, then they can do well because they're a good team. They beat 200 Bandits 4. They're now 1 apiece overall. And they can make it happen, but it did feel like it was quite complex, right? I liked so many components of their comp, right? I think the Cassin is really cool. I think the fact that they had the Lulu as well and the Tristana, it all makes sense, but it doesn't necessarily flow super well together. And I think that the fact that they were having to kind of wait for things to come online till so late in the game obviously gives 200 Bandits that opening, where if we look at their first time when they met, it was Brod that took that early game. Now we're into draft. Let's talk about it. Corki banned away, Lilia banned away, so no more of that for Lunka 4. No. And we are going to see the Maokai and the Varus still Skarner open, but I don't know if Brod are going to have the confidence they had before.
Well, I think they are. What I find really interesting is that Brod and friends get blue side again after just being beaten on it. That's really interesting to me. Mostly because of the pick order. Yes, 200 Bandits had that Skarner counter. I think it was just the designated Skarner counter for Lunkifer. But now the Wukong's open. That was banned last time. Now the Urgot's open if Loopy really wants to go for that. Typically, I expect that to be more of an R4, R5 champ if we do see it. But Skarner gone away. Varus gone away. 2 of the premier first picks. Corki is open.
Corki is banned.
Oh, my whoops! I'm surprised. Sorry, I was expecting Brod to ban on blue side. Sorry.
But the Wukong is open, right? Like the Wukong is open, so Tofu could pick it up. It's something that Lunk 4 has played recently as well. So it is something that would be a little bit of a steal, but I feel like there's also just openings. Okay, they're going to take the Xin Xiao. Yeah, I was going to say to take something that kind of gives you a bit of setup, and I like the Xin Xiao is setting that tempo already. I said that I didn't want them to go all the way as late as they did before. This has already changed the tone.
Yeah, but I'm looking at what's currently available. The Vi's open, the Wukong's open, the Viego's open. There's so many options for Lunka 4 to just go for a head-to-head matchup. As we see, the Ashe already locked in, which is, I think, is a great shout. The Ashe was instrumental in setting up the Lilia and the Syndra for success, and the Wukong's locked in for Lunka 4.
Yeah, so a lot of team fight already selected there. Cyclone plus the Crystal Arrow, which we talked about before in draft, right? The pick potential is going to be going crazy. And I'm not going to lie, I would be a little bit surprised if we see the Tristana again. But you know what? It is a strong pick. It does have capabilities. I feel like, you know, Ezreal's been getting played a lot around the world, right? And maybe that's kind of a call to go for. Like, obviously, the Corki have been really popular. Kai'Sa also has a bit of play. So I do wonder if they maybe swap it out, but instead they're going to keep it straight on the Tristana.
So the bot lane for Brod last game was actually broken by a Lilia double kill. And that's really what threw away an even lane. So maybe they're just thinking it wasn't the 2v2 that was the main issue. Yes, we didn't succeed on it as well as we thought we would, but we can still go for a successful 2v2 and just appreciate junglers better.
I like this already a lot more from Brod. This is simple, straightforward. Ball carrier Xin Zhao, ball carrier Tristana if you want.
That
for the Orianna.
That would be interesting.
She jumps in, man. I don't know what to tell you.
It could work if you need something out of nothing, right? I don't think it's going to be their premier play, though. That would be absolutely insane. Unless you're going to go for like a Kale on top of that,
yeah,
right?
It's
Kale,
really
Tristana, Orianna.
It's very
Maybe
much
you
trying
could
to
have it.
Very much trying to get blood from a stone if you're using Tristana as your ball delivery device here. JB, yeah, going back to that Syndra, looked really good. Obviously in lane you normally look good as Syndra into Castin, but overall I really liked his roams, so yeah, I'm very happy with this pick. And now we're into the second stage of bans. We may see some support pinches here against Brod. Yeah, that Lulu going out.
Okay.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense for this draft. There's Xin Zhao's already picked. You have that bruiser that wants to go in. Can get buffed up by the Lulu in the early game. Doesn't necessarily have to be a pick for lane. You can just use the power of an enchanter plus a bruiser to just win fights.
Is there a world where R5 gets saved for support and they actually just pick for Loopy early? Because I feel like this could be a bit of a game changer, you know, for for 200 bandits, because I feel like Luby did pretty well regardless in that top side. Yeah, did get counterpicked last time, but I feel like if Akers doesn't go for something really aggro, right, like maybe they can kind of get away with it and then have a really good bot lane setup.
I don't.
From the looks of, oh, sorry. Go
So I don't know if we're giving Akers a counter pick in top side. Looking at this comp, I wouldn't love it. It's opening up a lot of angles for some dive champions for Akers, like the Camille. I think if you early pick a Gnar or something, you just get monstered. So yeah, support's getting locked in here. Just going to be a Nautilus Ash here, just a very safe, a lot of slows, a lot of range available to you. It's a pretty even lane, is how I describe it. It's nothing special.
I think it makes sense to pick up the Nautilus now. You threw 2 bans at like supports that make your life a living hell as an engaged support, and you're basically throwing down the gauntlet, saying we don't need to ban top laners. We have our 5. We don't really. Care.
The combo.
That is some old school combo, man. That is.
This is also a combo that has not been executed well in the last year of UKEL. I've seen it twice. It did not do well. I'm pretty sure Jamsu was piloting the Taric in one of those games.
But you know what? Like, I like the Taric. I like the Taric into the engage, right? It does a lot in the lane. It can protect the Tristana. That is not what I was expecting to be locked in. I saw the Ambassador getting hovered, but they've actually just decided to go for it.
Now, how deep does Loopy's pockets go? Because if he does the Vex counterpick that we've seen come out of LEC, I will be shocked. But they do need, I'd say, a bit more frontline on the side of 200 bandits.
Hold on.
What are you hoping for, Harold? You're in a lot of suspense.
I was hoping for the Renekton lock-in so I could use one of my plushies, but but Poppy makes sense. One of the counters that was theorized for the Ambessa when she first came out, having that steadfast presence to stop the dashes, using that buckler shield to trade into the Ambessa. Ambessa will outscale. It is kind of the trade-off you're making, which is, I guess, kind of the trade-off you ever do, because the Ambessa does struggle in that early game. The Renekton, the shield break power is kind of just that. There was the possibility of a Camille angle. I would have really liked the Camille in this comp, because you can ISO one target, just blow them up, and then play from there. The Poppy is a lot more straightforward with the comp. You're playing 2 tanks, a bruiser, and 2 backline damage dealers. Bog standard front to back. And
it does also deal with 3 members coming in from Broad, right? The Shin, the Tristana, and the Ambessa all going to be having some problems with the Loopy on that Poppy. But we don't need to speculate anymore. We're going to go to game number 2. It is all on the line for Broad. If they lose this, they are going to the lower brackets, and 200 rounds will make it through. Is that going to happen? We'll find out shortly. Greyheart, Harold, take us away.
Thank you very much again. You're just always so excited to find yourself back on the camera. It really warms my heart. Harold, you got to see that draft. You got to talk about it a little bit, but now you got to talk about it a little bit with me. Do you want to make any changes to your prediction based on what you've seen? I think you originally said 2-1 to 200 bandits, if I remember correctly. Yes. So there's only one way you can change that now.
2-1.
You're still going 2-1.
I'm still going 2-1. I feel like Broad's comp this game is a lot more well-rounded, and I do think they have the champions where that mechanical edge can come through.
I on the other hand, keep going.
No. I mean, it's very combo reliant on the side of Broad. Yes. But if they can pull it off in the crucial moments, there's very little counterplay on the side of the 200 bandits.
Well, I can hear sounds in my ear of welcome to Summoner's Rift, so that's what I'm going to do right now, and welcome you to Summoner's Rift for Game 2 in this best of 3 to decide who makes their way forwards to face off against Venom Crest. I, on the other hand, am forced to change my prediction. I did originally have too much faith in the Broad Bros, and as a result, I've got to mix it up. The question is, do I say it's going to be a reverse sweep? Do I say it's going to be a 2-0 to 200 bandits? Do I say they can just hold it like you and go 2-1? I'll be honest, I talked about in chat, and then it got referenced by Gerald very kindly, that I wanted to see like ease of execution. It started like ease of execution, and by the end of the draft, it did not feel like ease of execution. I think it's a difficult combo to pull off effectively. I'm not convinced that enough has changed about this draft, and given the synergy that I saw from Broad and Friends in the last one, I'm really worried we see a 2-0 right now.
in game 1, their comp was a lot more frayed and a lot more disjointed in what they needed to do. But in this game, they have multiple lanes to play for early on. There are multiple lanes that are gonna spike on that 1-item timer. They don't necessarily need the 2-item timer to just be obnoxious. The Ambessa, once she gets to the clips, is able to blow out the backline. There's still the fact that this is an immobile Ashe, and there is a lot of go forward buttons on the side of Broad.
There are indeed. We'll see how many of those get pressed a little bit later on. Meanwhile, we talked a lot in the last game about Lunker4, and it was hard not to talk about Lunker4 given everything that was happening and had just the most dominant of games. I missed the end KDA, but it was something along the lines of 10-0 and 10. And again, we're going to get to see them playing a nice aggressive champion. They can go in, get out relatively easy with the clone on the Wukong. We talked about the fact they liked Xin Zhao. That was somewhat taken away from them in the early picks. Tofu securing this one for themselves, having seen the likes of the Lilia and the Skarner banned away. I want all eyes on Tofu for this game because Lunker4 stepped forward and showed why they, in your eyes, were a season MVP worthy player. Tofu's got to come out and do something similar to shut down Lunker4.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta just you gotta show up or shut up. The Broad, well known for their banter and their presence on social media and just always being there to take a bit of a hit on the face. But this is upper bracket semi. You don't really want to lose this because you do want to take a break. You want to be able to go into a series a little more relaxed than your opponent. You want to have less worry going in. You want to have that safety of being able to say, we can drop this game, or we can drop this series if need be. Losing this just takes away that safety from you.
Just mild skirmishes so far, Harold, but we're coming to what is one of my favourite parts of the game in just a few seconds' time. These first scuttles spawning, and both junglers are on the same side of the map, so there is potential for a little excitement around the bot side scuttle.
Yeah, both junglers on the bot side, the Broad's bot lane getting pushed because, Tristana. kind of clear, but Elendil does use the volley to just pressure out the wave. Jansu is in the bush, getting poked out slowly but surely. Tofu is on vision, and Lunker4 is already wrapping around to the topside scuttle. He wants to avoid the skirmish.
Yeah, deciding that discretion was the better part of valor on that one. Didn't actually see who was able to secure that, whether Lunker4 was able to take it quickly before shooting off into distance, or whether Tofu on the Xin Zhao was able to get that one away. What I do know is Lunker4 takes the topside one, has the potential for some ganking capabilities onto the Ambassador instead. We'll find that first recall, much as Xin Zhao has just done themselves.
We're talking about Valor. There's no Quinn in this game.
A Greyheart pun if ever I heard one, Harold.
Yeah, it's spreading. It's worrying.
This is what happens when you've worked with me at least 2 or 3 times. It's like, oh no, I've become what I always hated.
Yeah, but just regular trading going on right now. Loopy burns the TP to get back to lane. Just I don't know. Go and have a bit of a scrap with this Noxian woman.
Noxian woman versus Demacian Yordle, I want to say. And at the moment, feels like Ambessa getting the better of these trades. Already a level up. Going to be able to hit that public execution a lot quicker than we're going to be able to see Loopy getting to level 6. Meanwhile, trades on bot side are fairly quiet until this point where we saw a really bold rocket jump forward, taking a turret shot as well. Good damage being put down to Elendil, but traded back onto Sim. Has managed to get a reset on the rocket jump, can escape if they need to, but instead trying to stick this one out. So we see Jamsu tanking up for days, but all those enhanced autos coming out from Elendil doing enough to equalize the fight.
Rangers focus makes it so that the 200 bandits bot lane can't take this raid. JB is doing a little bit of baiting here. Lunker4's in the bush.
Yeah, this is really, really dangerous. Tofu having to burn the flash. Teleport going to come out of QQR as well, and they're going to find themselves in a whole world of hurt as they land straight into the scatter. This surely is going to be the first blood being secured. Lunker4 trying to find this one, flashing forward. One last burst of damage coming out of JB, and it's those 2 superstars from game 1, Lunker4 and JB, striking again.
Yeah, really greedy teleport right by QQR. Is he... I'm having a hard time seeing what you guys see in this guy.
Oh, don't do a boy like that. This is a multi-time tournament winning player who is coming in to a team maybe not familiar with. I'm gonna play devil's advocate on this one. That was a teleport done defensively to try and help out Tofu in a potential fight. It was just too late because the fight had already ended. Tofu had already escaped and could not re-enter, and unfortunately that was lambs to the slaughter, and there's not even a kindred as you're about to say.
Well, maybe. Lambs to the Slaughter is a Talon voice line.
That's also true.
So I think
Uh-oh.
I think it's just about this like threat of the possibility of just this. Wukong is such an annoying creature to face
Not wrong.
because Xin Zhao is a well-known stat check bruiser. Wukong is Xin Zhao on steroids.
Gonna see.
The bonus armor, the bonus regen, the armor shred on the Q. Just so much power in the one champion, so much chase potential thanks to the World Trickster and the Nimbus Strike. How did he get through, man?
It's been like that for a fair while as well, ever since the reworks came through and the changes. And as we've hit that 7-minute marker, it only makes sense that we've had our handshake and our trade of neutral objectives going the opposite way to in the first game. This time the first dragon of the game goes over to 200 bandits for that mountain drake. However, the first 3 voids are going the way of Brother Prince. Will this change the tempo of the game at all?
Yeah, the grubs do make it so that you are gonna have that side lane threat later on. You have the Orianna, you have the Ambessa, you have these 2, well, 1.5 winning side lane threats. The Orianna can be exploited. You know, the Syndra is really strong. She is going to scale, but
wow, the shockwave was nice, but the scatter was even better there, Harold.
yeah, the scatter makes it so that JB and Kenny are under no threat at all. No ults used on the side of 200 bandits. Are they gonna look for a repeat play? I would hope so. I would hope they're gonna try and make something happen with this shockwave timer being down.
Yeah, there's definitely a chance to try and put a world of hurt onto QQR and shake your belief in them even more. Enchanted Crystal Arrow straight onto Sin. Here comes the flash forward. It is blocked off nicely by Tariq, who will now eat up a lot of the damage, but it's definitely Undeal and Kohu winning this one. There's even more joining the fight. Syndra coming down. The teleport from this mid laner is a lot safer. It doesn't lead to a huge amount, though.
Why is the Tariq? Oh, Tariq has full Swifties. I was trying to understand why he was so fast.
Speedy boy.
Like, yeah, he's got full boots.
Yeah, already making sure that he's going to get him out around the map nice and quickly, trying to impact more lanes than just what he did in game number 1.
I'm just trying to understand why didn't Kenny just ult? He had a level 6.
A fair question, and one I don't immediately have an answer for, and we may never know.
Yeah, we may never know unless we get to speak to these players after the game. But as we see, there's a hell of a difference right now in the state of the lanes. You know, Akker's getting his hands on the Ambessa. The Poppy theoretical counterpick still struggles into a character with so much mobility because Steadfast Presence, yeah, you can stop a dash. Just Ambessa has so many.
I don't think, well, you've got public execution coming in. Steadfast already having been used, going to see the Keeper's verdict issued, and again, Akker's winning out on this trade. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels a lot like it's less so a lane counterpick, more a sort of compositional counterpick in terms of what it can stop later into the game.
Yeah, I mean, fighting into a Poppy is always going to be hard because, you know, there's so much space that she can create, so much time that she can take away from the enemy, but oh boy.
Knockup comes through from the first Cyclone issue. Doesn't even need a second as Lonkifer gets their first kill of the game. Enchanted Crystal Arrow trying to save the life of Kenny. It is in vain, however.
Kenny goes down. It is a 2-1 for 1 at the end of the day, but a support falling and mid laner falling.
Tofu's audacious charge forcing the flash out of Elendil. It's not enough to save the life of the Ash, and Tofu finally making a real impact on the map.
Tofu finding this window to gank the bot lane. And now we're kind of, I feel like we're kind of caught in the same predicament that we were in game 1. Yeah, you're putting this Ashe behind to try and get this Tristana ahead. Tristana's picked up 1 kill in a plate for now. Probably gonna pick up a second soon. And you have to get this Tristana ridiculously ahead to try and make space for the rest of your team to play around her.
I think
The enemy AD carry doesn't need that. And Ashe will always be useful.
I agree with you, but what I'll say is they've done a much better job of it in this game. Whereas it all fell apart from the Lilia gang in game number 1, this time around they've been able to do all of this. Just second as Taric finds themselves in a lot of trouble here. Does not have the flash available, but still able to escape with their lives. Void Grubs having just spawned, this could be a point of contention. Just to go back to it, yeah, they've put Tristana ahead, but it doesn't feel like so much of a cost. CS is equal between the Xin Zhao and the Wukong, unlike the 30 CS difference we saw last time out. As the fight breaks out in River, Cosmic Radius has been issued. It's going to only give minimal amount of impact as the 1-for-1 of both supports die so far. But now Tristana showing why it was worth putting the eggs in the Tristana basket. Aka's getting a kill too.
Finally, we see Broad play around their strengths. They finally draft for, their top lane. Not superstar, but their anchor. Their safety has always been Akers being able to edge out these leads in the lane. They finally play around that timer. They knew that 200 bandits were always going to be on the backstab because of the Taric that buys so much time to fight for, but
that arrow landed from downtown, and boy, it hurt. The dodge away coming out of, I believe it was Sin Jamsu, not so lucky.
Is this what it feels to caster curse somebody? As soon as I speak about the Taric, the enchanted crystal arrow lands from the other side of the map, and he's just dead to a Syndra.
That's absolutely remarkable. And in all of the excitement that was occurring, one of the things I really want to put some attention towards, Harold, was as that Void Grub fight started, the kills were 2 apiece. We know the fight went 3-2 in favour of Broad, but who got that first kill? Who's got that completion on their feat of warfare?
Well, I believe it is 200 bandits. The Wukong picked up the first kill of the fight onto the Taric. And 200 bandits pick up the first stepping stone towards getting that, those feats of strength. But as we see, trading on the red buff.
Tofu once more. This is a dangerous game being played, but we can see Tristana is lurking in the wings. Aggression being put down by Luffy, already having used that stead present, has the potential to use the Keeper's Verb, but should they wait? It looks at this moment like Tofu's been left for dead. They played with fire, they got burnt.
Yeah, going a bit too deep at this, but I feel like once you see the Poppy, there's not leaving, the Nautilus is not leaving, and you have no information on where the enemy carry is. You've overstayed your welcome, man. You can't sit there for that long and just expect to just get away with no burns. You're taking a red buff. That guy burns already.
Yeah, we know the red. We know. You beat me too. I was gonna say we know the red buff burns, but you're quite right. Meanwhile, Bessa playing quite safe here. There's multiple enemy combatants coming their way. Felt like Tofu just got a little bit carried away with some of the earlier successes. Gave up their life and a little bit of the tempo here. However, there's still a decent gold lead for Sin and friends. All of that because of all the extra turret plates, all the extra gold that's going to Sin's pocket, and they've just secured another kill, free and easy onto Elendil.
Another kill onto Elendil, the first turret taken in the mid lane. It now will come down to the next 2 objectives. Well, the side of 200 bandits, they only need the one to guarantee themselves the feats of strength. Oh, JB!
QQ are having a horror show. Meanwhile, JB's used pretty much everything for that kill. Tofu looking to try and make it a 1-for-1. Sin still has the ability to jump over that wall and get involved. Has to be very careful for the scatter. Has Jamsu for company. This recall will certainly be cancelled. Stun, lands, explosion, boom, dead.
There was no need to burn the flash. You know you're dead. There's nothing you can do to get away. You're burning a flash.
I mean,
just to
it
try
felt like both mid laners burnt flash somewhat unnecessarily there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's straight flash for flash in the mid lane. Syndra's is more valuable. Syndra does rely on actually putting down spells, while the Orianna can use that ball delivery system to make the fight happen. But this 200 bandits are not taking this without standing down. But there's a 4k gold lead for Broad.
looked a little bit like Lunkerful wants to try and make some play around the top side, or just be here for protection, make sure Elendil secures this turret. But again, fight is brewing. This is by far a messier game than we saw in game 1. It's going in favour of Bandits, who just love these little skirmishes. Already securing another kill. Akka's now 2-0-2 on this Ambessa, wanting more. Still has the public use execution available should they want to dive this turret, but with Loopy arriving with the teleport instead, it's going to be Jamsu who has to step away.
I mean, we're seeing all of these incremental trades from the side of Broad, mostly because they've been able to spend so much time on the side lanes. The public execution misses, JB floats away.
It goes wide. Nice scatter onto Tofu as well, means that Scatter can come in. JB able to escape into the wings. Herald had been side up, but Tofu decided he wanted to fight. He wanted to kill off JB, and now he is paying for that indiscretion. But instead, it's Lunkerful who pays for the sins of the mid laner, giving up their life in trade.
Yeah, the Sins are all just denying the Syndra damage, and Lunkerful, you know, blood red eyes, tries to go for it, and Jamsu with his Swifties will just walk out.
Those Swifties have been worth their weight in gold so far.
Yeah, I mean, Broad are pulling the map apart like it's a tender piece of brisket. It is excellent what they're doing. It is. It's genuinely. This is the Broad we've been accustomed to seeing most of the split. A Broad that can, like, if they need to, they can slow down and accelerate at will, and they will force you to make that mistake, to make that trade that won't work out. The kill score is relatively even, but there's 5k between the teams.
It's a massive deficit, and I'm glad you used the word trade there because we're at a really important stage of the game. Herald already up, Infernal Dragon coming in a moment or so. We are just one neutral objective being secured by 200 Bandits from them being able to secure defeats in their favour, whereas Brother and Friend still need the two of them. Will they be able to find a way to stop the trade coming through? A way of doing that potentially would be able to pick up this kill onto Lunkerful. Burning the Smite at least is a nice little trade, even though the blue buff did go the way of the Wukong.
Hell yeah, blue buff on Nautilus.
Hey, you gotta get those cooldowns. Meanwhile, we got a fight brewing. Orianna going to teleport into quite a dangerous spot already. We're going to see that dredge line connecting onto Xinjiao. Scatter onto QQR, who came in from the teleport, but the health bars are lower on the side of the red team with 200 Bandits. Lose Kenny. They are going to be like, oh no, who killed Kenny? And the answer was QQR, but it's Akkas who wants more, finds one, looks for a second.
Yeah. Holy, what a fight from the side of 200 Bandits, and they're not done!
Akkas doesn't get 2, but Sin does. It's 4 when all is said and done, and that will be the dragon being secured as well. Wukong runs the way of the Herald, but there's no way that he can take this one by himself, and it looks like just like that, both the neutral objectives will not be traded. They will both go to Broad.
Yeah, the Broad keep using their power window, finally. This is the Broad we were promised. This is the Broad we've seen all split long. Yes, they're bloodlusted. Yes, they're gonna sometimes aim for the play, but at the end of the day, they're going to use that superior knowledge, the superior ability to just out-hands you in the fight and to just outthink you in the way that you have to just draw out the fight in a certain way, to just make these plays happen. We're all harping about the gold lead, but now this is feats secured for the side of Broad when 200 Bandits were so close, and that is 2.5 items completed for the Ambessa and the Tristana. This is a completely different game from the two side laners of Broad.
The upgraded boots available as well now to boot. A whole nation of Broad fans scream up the Broddy as it looks like they are closer and closer to taking us to a deciding game 3 to see who will be facing Venom Crest later on. It's not all over and done though. We've seen Broad throw a little bit in situations like this before. We've seen them not playing the cleanest of games. Now they need to show what 200 Bandits showed in game 1, that they can take a significant lead and run with it.
Yeah, this Ambessa is a bit of an issue right now.
It's an issue.
See 3 members of 200.
But it's run into trouble. 5 people being sent over here to shut down the Ambessa. Akkas eventually falls. The kill going over to Elendil. And what have Broad been able to secure while that was happening?
Well, vision on the Otacon and trying to trap the 200 Bandit side. There's so much vision. Their approach from 200 Bandits is lit up like a Christmas tree, and this you can see just Jamsu trying to look for the window.
Fascinating.
He doesn't have the flash available, so it's kind of hard to find setup play for the ball if you're not playing around Tofu.
200 Bandits obviously aware that while they were picking up that kill, the distraction could have led to Atakan being started up. It was not. And Broad and Friends just silently managed to get past them, managed to start that Herald being charging towards the top side, and will get an an inner turret for an outer turret trade.
Well, they're going to rotate this Herald to be at the other. Never mind. Somebody send Metro Police to this guy's house.
No. This is very smart. Buying a little bit of extra time to start Atakan up. Ambessa back on the map. Akers does have the teleport available. Kenny getting closer. They know this one is going on. Stun already used by Jamsu. This is going to be a smite fight. This is a coin flip. This is when Rod and Friends can lose games like before. Atakan stolen away by Lunkafor. And now with these extra GAs, they're trying to take the fight. Hiking up a kill onto Tarek. They've lost a couple of their extra lives, but given up nothing in return. It is eventually going to be shut down. Coming in for Broad and Friends, but the damage was done.
Oh,
Coin flip for pity's sake. I totally wanted to say pity there.
oh, holy moly, Lunkafer not going down without a fight. Takes away the Atakan, denies it, most importantly, from the side of Broad. I'm a bit flabbergasted right now. There should have been no window where this Wukong should have been able to get into the pit to get the smite. It went down to 1600 health. And I don't know. I feel like Tofu quivered a little bit in his boots and just made it happen.
I mean, if you needed any more evidence of what you were saying before this game started, there it is. Stunning scenes here with Atakan being stolen away. All those extra lives, they did get burnt, and at the end of the day, I think 200 will happily say, Worth, we got a kill, we stole away a crucial objective, we briefly stopped the onrushing Friends army, but how brief will that respite be?
It does deny the 2.5 minute, basically, unpunished timer of the Atakan, but the gold leads are so overwhelming on the carries. You know, this Tristanas, there's a 3k gold lead for the Tristana, there's a 3k gold lead almost for the Ambessa. There, you have a lead in the mid lane. JB has done an excellent job linking up with Lunkafor and just denying QQR his agency in this game. But is it gonna be enough?
QQR getting caught out, stepping a little too far forward, caught by the dredge line and sentenced to death. The flash over the wall, buying a little bit of time. The ignite not quite ticking. QQR lives by a thread, but Lunkafor's on the chase. Flash and kill.
Up. The monkey goes on the chase in the jungle. Sin gets hit by the enchanted crystal arrow, but there's too many members of Broad just escorting this Tristana wrecking ball up the mid lane.
Oh, Sin's just been left without any support. Beautifully timed Keeper's verdict coming in, but damage is so good that it's Loopy who has to flash away. Does eventually get the kill in the 1v1 in the trade of the Yordles. Meanwhile, look what's happening on the rest of the map. Akers and Jamsu left running as QQR and Tofu die.
What a fight from the side of 200 Bandits. After talking so much about how they were in this kind of black hole of just losing money to these side lane plays because of the efficiency and the strength of the current of the carries on the side of the Broad and Friends. The Keeper's verdict just makes the fight impossible. This Poppy has about 6,000 gold in her inventory, and she's just able to outvalue a 12,000 gold Tristana.
That is genuinely one of the best Poppy plays I've seen in a very, very long time. I thought they'd issued the charge a little bit too early, but held it to the perfect moment. Removed, I believe it was Jamsu and Akers from any ability to support Sin. Also managing to find the solo kill somehow with perfectly timed flashes and bucklers and everything else. Now it's Akers who's overstepped, and this is that messiness we talked about from Broad and Friends. They threw a Baron. They're throwing in fights again. They're mispositioning, and all of that extra gold that has been in their pocket, that gold lead is being whittled away. It's down to only 4,000 now.
Yeah, the gold lead is basically the Tristana's pockets right now, and the Ambessa. But it's not even... It's not that threatening. Look at the Syndra. The Syndra is about to hit death cap. it's gonna be so difficult to pick apart these fights the way they were doing it before now, when the Syndra has this one-shot threat on any of the carries on the side of Brother Friend.
Harold, it all started at Atakan.
Man, man, yeah, I can harp on this player only so much, but boy oh boy, Lunkafor, he's pulled it out. He's pulled up again. He's still here. He's not gonna stop fighting. He wants this upper bracket matchup against Venom Crest. I was looking at 200 Bandits at the start of the season as, you know, a possible dark horse, a possible team that had a chance to, you know, make something happen. But at the end of the day, you saw the two teams going 8-1 and 9-0. You're looking at them thinking, oh, you know, it's just going to be, you know, this last game of regular season is just going to be the preview to finals. Now I'm not so sure. 200 Bandits have looked so extremely solid in their coordination in the mid game. Yes, they faltered in the early game when they don't have access to, you know, certain counterpicks, certain champions that you know they can make things happen on. But this mid game team fighting, this, you know, ability to just find the fight, you know, it's genuinely impressive, and I'm enjoying watching this team more and more every game that passes.
Harold, I think you quite rightly say there. We came in with questions about 200 Bandits and how they could perform, but I also feel like there was this tag on Broad and Friends, which I still have questions about myself, because we know how strong they are. This is a team that went 0-1 in the regular season, only losing out to the unbeaten Venom Crest, who everybody knows is this incredibly powerful team. However, there's still people out there who say, is this just a bit of a meme team? This is a team with, yes, they have a great social media presence, they're hilarious, but sometimes they do better talking on social media than they do on the Rift. This is a team who, you know, I've met a lot of them in person, I've, you know, a lot of the management, who they are, they're just some of the nicest guys ever. But sometimes you ask the question, how much is it, just as J-Real said earlier on, they're laughing and joking in Discord while the draft's going on and everything's happening. How much is this actually a team that can compete and show the seriousness and the competitive edge that we need?
I think they are a team that have some storied, you know, players, some players that have played at all levels in the UK scene, and saying that they're not going to be, you know, be able to show up in an important series when it matters to, you know, focus on lock-in, I feel like is a takeaway from them. Like, you can't really, like, say that these players don't have the experience to lock in the moment.
Well,
I think it's also about what happens before a game. It's about the preparation. It's about how the team's feeling, what the general mood is. I've played not high level League of Legends, but I've played like fives in, you know, some relative, you know, amateur leagues. You know, the Valence League, for example. I've played there a bunch already, and you know, going into any game thinking you've already won it is the worst way you can go into a game.
Well, I think,
and I feel like, yeah, go ahead.
No, please finish your thought.
I was just gonna say, I feel like Broad kind of came into this game thinking we've beaten these guys before while we were supposed to lose. How can we lose a best of 3 against them?
I do think there's some truth in that, but equally, as Rory quite rightly pointed out on sort of the analyst desk, there was thoughts coming out from the coach of Run Friends. This could be a team that genuinely could cause us issues. So I do feel like there is respect, but they need to show it in the plays. And this is an opportunity to do it. They get great damage on JB, forcing the flash and Singe to eviscerate the Syndra before she can press the magical R-key. A nice Cyclone gets a multi-man knocker, but Longford now left without any friends. Shutdown goal goes over the QQR, and this is the fight that Broad needed. This is the fight that could completely turn this series on its head as Sin goes wild.
Double kill.
Sin,
Blue team has scored an ace.
JB, we've harped so much on the play, like his performance this game. He's played so well. He makes a misstep and gets punished for it, and this is just going to be 1-1. I feel like with the Tristana is just too easy to just end this game. Yes, there's a 10-second timer, death timer, but game's over, man.
We said, could they step up? They stepped up instantly. They took us to game through. We got a decider in the Four Nations, folks. Not just a meme team anymore. Not at all. Not with a fight taken like that. They finally made the dominance they had through the rest of the game pay off, Harold.
is it a fire at this point? You know, is it just a moment where they kind of just lock back in and they say, no, we have our, you know, we're on this winning frame because they were ahead and the game was in their hands pretty much. And then they had a few back-to-back fights. I feel like they were shaken a little bit by the steal on the Arakan, and it showed. And then they just find this pick on JB, they recompose, and they start going back forward. They start going back aggressively with the leads they have.
And
this is the broad we want to see. Is it going to be enough for Game 3? Because 200 Bandits are going to take this game and think, okay, what do we need to target now to make sure this doesn't happen?
An unfortunate misstep there from the mid laner of 200 Bandits, a player who we've lauded so highly over these last 2 games in this series, just unfortunately letting that fight out of their control. And from that moment, that game was donezo. But this series isn't, Harold. We've gone 1-1, played the 4 Nations of Silver Scrapes, cut to a break, but come back really, really quickly because we want to get into Game 3.
Yep.
And we have ourselves a series, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
We are now into the final and third game of the night, 1-1 apiece. And I feel like, you know what? This is exactly what we talked about. We talked about the fact that it can turn around. Broad can bring it back whenever they need to, because it didn't look all sunshine and rainbows, right? Started off good. They had a nice early game. Rory, you know, they got themselves kicking off
great.
good. But it looked a little bit rough in the mid game. You know, there was some 200 Bandits magic almost happening.
So what you're referring to, of course, is the Atakan, right? That got nicked, which was a big switch in the tempo because it showed 200 Bandits still had a bit of light in their hearts, a bit of a flame. It was actually a positive play for Broad and Friends, though, that Atakan steal, because they still made good money with the Atakan changes that happened a few patches back. More importantly, it was that weird fight around the mid lane, like bot side-ish jungle, where Sin got solo killed when I'm pretty sure he was 2.5k gold up against the Poppy, which
It was quite a lot, yeah.
it was a lot of cash. But that was more just a small mechanical misplay, and Broad were able to just bring it home in the end. They slapped with their wallets so hard the Nexus blew up.
Yeah, and it's a story as old as time. You get ahead, more money, more problems. Not for you though, because you can just win all the team fights for nothing, right? So I feel like it was a really nice play from Broad there. They did show a little bit of clinicality, you know, they did show a little bit of cleanliness. They were able to get really far ahead in the early game as well. Like this Tristana was a monster, Harold. Is it a monster enough that it gets banned away?
Maybe. It's I think the focus, like the Tristana per se in the laning hasn't been the major issue. The issue has been that Tofu has been bot lane oh so many times. There's you at this point after these two games, if you're 200 Bandits, you know that Tofu is going to be bot side for a good 50% of the early game.
Yeah, and I feel like on the side note of that, like we were singing his praises a lot in game one, I feel like Lunker4 wasn't able to do as much in this game. You know, I feel like maybe it's because, you know, obviously the bot lane was getting ganked a lot by Broad, right? And that was a big powerhouse. And I feel like they didn't necessarily have that same on the top side, right? The Poppy had a couple moments, Roy, and I know you want to talk about it, but it didn't feel like it necessarily hit that same level that we've seen coming out from Loopy.
Okay, so Poppy's a really interesting champ because she has what I call a trap champion, where it has really clear outplay potential, so people just pick it because they're going, oh, clearly this outplays the champ, so I'm going to pick it up. No, Poppy's slightly harder to pilot than most people assume immediately, and a lot of the time when you see a Poppy counterpick in competitive, they do just go down CS. They are losing in spots where they shouldn't be because it's not the best champ for the actual pick. And even though she did get, the champion Poppy got an outplay over the Tristan in the mid game, she was pretty, I don't know, invisible for most of that game. It was mostly just side lane farm collecting for most of it, because like you just can't go into this Ambessa when she's so far ahead. You'll get shredded down. And that was just the unfortunate position Loopy found himself in.
Yeah, no, I do get what you mean. It's tough because it's that kind of thing where it's like we're talking, okay, do you play comfort? Do you play what you think is going to be best? Do you play what is strong in the meta? Like, you know what I mean? It's like there's all these questions, like, do you go back to your old style? Like Greyheart obviously pointing out, he just wanted to see Broad play something a lot more easy to execute. They did that. They looked a lot better, right? Is that maybe a similar kind of resonating moment that we need to see coming out from 200 Bandits here? Because it almost feels like if they also just played what works really well for them, then maybe they can win. And I feel like Loopy is the one that I'm targeting here. Like maybe that Urgot, even though not necessarily the greatest matchup in the world, could have potentially done a lot more than the Poppy because of the comfort that they're on, Harold.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say the Urgot was available for the R5. The Renekton was offered, which I think would have been a more than fine pick for the window that you're looking to play. We saw in game one what it meant for 200 Bandits and Lunker4 to have those pushing lanes, to have those winning lanes, at least in the early game, to have that pressure in both solo lanes, to be able to just take the time to punish the Xin Zhao's presence bot lane. In this game, it felt like they sacked off two side lanes. They had the winning matchup mid because of JD's prowess on the Syndra and some questionable plays by QQR and Tofu, but it's not enough to have one winning lane when you're trying to not play for a specific lane.
Yeah,
basically.
No, I do agree. I think back to the drawing board, that's kind of where they got to go. I will say, it's now 2-1 in general of these two playing against each other. Obviously, it's 1-1 on today. This is going to be the next big matchup, right? And obviously, winner will go on to the upper bracket. They will be taking on Venom Crest. Loser will be going down to the losers bracket. It is to be confirmed who they will be playing, but they will have a long road to get themselves all the way back to where they have got themselves at the moment. I believe it is something like they have to play... I just did the math there. They would have to play 3 games to get themselves after this to the finals. Whereas if you win today, you only have to win 1. So with that being said, a lot to play for these two teams. We've seen a lot come out from them so far. It's not fearless draft. We can see things get picked up again. I feel like Broad, they did a smart thing, right, with the banning the Lilia. I really like the Lilia ban a lot. I think also the Corki takeaway was massive. It does put a little bit of more discomfort on Elendil. And I feel like Elendil has looked good on the Ashe, but if you're getting ganked all the time, there's not a lot of runaway potential. Maybe we see a switch up of that. Maybe they look for the Tristana instead themselves, Rory. But I feel like Broad played the draft well. Now, the big question I have is, Broad got given blue side again. Is that going to hinder them? Oh, sorry, is that going to hinder 200 Bandits going into this next game, Rory?
So, Broad naturally game 1 got given blue side, and then because they lost game 1, they chose blue side again. Now, 200 Bandits, as you pointed out, have picked red side. So, honestly, I think this works towards what 200 Bandits wanted to be doing. I didn't see a large issue in the draft. It was more of an execution error, more than anything. So, I think both teams are exactly where they want to be. So I don't think it's an issue that Broad get blue side, because that's where 200 Bandits want to be.
Okay, and Harold, any other? Do you think there's any switch ups maybe we see from 200 Bandits? Right, they played Syndra twice. Do you feel like it was maybe a little bit less effective in this composition? Or do you feel like there were just other aspects of play? Like, it's actually just nothing to do with the comp and everything to do with the play, and do 200 Bandits need to go to maybe a little bit of a faster pace like they had in that first game?
I think it's all to do with comp and nothing to do with gameplay. I feel like they have to draft with the idea that you're taking red side to have winning sides. You're taking red side to basically project yourself on the map and say, we're taking the early game here and here. What are you going to do about it? And they were in a position to do it in game 2 by picking something different for Loopy, and they just defaulted onto the Poppy, and it kind of just whimpered. Like they had some decent plays, but I feel like their potential to actually just go forward just whimpered at one point because there's an Ambessa with 3 items. What can we do?
Yeah, it felt like it went a bit flat. You know, I do agree. I think, again, it almost feels like I'm echoing what I said in game 1, right? But for the other team, right? 200 Bandits, I think they could have had some moments if they were that little bit stronger. But the early game that was allowed to be had from Broad put them so far ahead that they would just... It was just almost unsurmountable for 200 Bandits to get back into the game, right? It's like if you're just that far behind, the Tristana's jumping in, they're killing your carries, like you're having to deal with an Ambessa, like it's a lot going on, and you just don't have the funds, you don't have the wallet to deal with it. And I do wonder, like, yeah, again, I feel like so far, early game has been the ticket to victory for either team, right? Whoever has got ahead in the lead on the early game, pre-15 minutes, has just looked a lot better as we finally go into the final draft of the day. The Corki band, it's a staple, it's staying, and so is the Maokai.
I'm expecting pretty similar bans, to be honest, coming out. We might see a Tristana pinched here, but I think 200 Bandits were very happy with what they're banning out. Yeah, they're pinching those Maokai and that Varus. Tofu has been shown to be a very good Maokai player, so it's no surprise that's getting banned out. And Sin, I've heard he doesn't love playing Varus, but he's very effective on the champ, and it's a top tier pick for a reason. So yeah, no surprise at these getting pinched. And then Loopy's Ornn once again. The Sin Zhao though being taken away, but that means the Skarner's open.
The Skarner is open.
Does Lunkafor have an answer that isn't the Lilia into a Skarner?
There is a pick I would really like to see. It is a bit out of left field, but the Mordekaiser would be really good answer to the Skarner.
Really good
Even
counter.
in the jungle, you can flex it. It's a good jungle. It's Scott Mordekaiser has been a great jungler for the longest time.
I don't know if I'd go as far to say great. I think good is a fair
I'd say
decision
passable.
there, but, yeah, but Vi going to be picked up there. I do agree, right? I'm not harsh in the tone, right? I think the Mordekaiser in certain matchups could do it, but you know, slow.
It would be cool in
CC's
top
not
lane.
reliable. You know, there are some picks that may be missing, but Vi is going to be locked in. Vi, to be honest, is a champion that I'm not the biggest fan of.
You called it.
Oh, we are going all the way back to week 2, day 1.
Oh boy. Whoa. They were throwing down for game 3. This is gonna be fun.
So, good luck to JB if he wants to pick in that Syndra again, because Vi plus something like a Talia is very hard for a Syndra to live into. As we're seeing, Elendil picking up that Ashe now. Just a very big comfort job. I will add, in solo queue, Elendil has played 13 games of Ashe back to back. So this is like, we're now making 16 from what I've seen, and a Tristana answer again is very interesting.
I'm not going to have a little bit of a question about this one. The Kindred into the Vi, like, I know Vi obviously notorious for going in and then dying, and Kindred can use the Lamb's Respite, but I feel like they're kind of giving the opportunity over to Broad to just set up a load of dive. Like, you've got 2 ADCs right now. Like, who is going to protect you
And the
when
Taric,
everyone is dashing forwards?
The Taric here would be great comboed with Vi or Tristana. So you could just default to that later on.
Who's protecting the Kindred? Who's protecting the Ashe?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, if Broad lock in a Taric here, it's even harder for 200 bandits to survive outside of something like, I don't know, a Milio, but that's not the best spot for it. As we're seeing,
the Lamb's Respite as well to give time for the Cosmic Radiance. Like, I'm feeling it. Maybe we see it banned away in the second phase.
There is an angle, which is a bit out of left field, but there is an angle for it to just lock in the Olaf right now for Loopy.
Blindable is, could be blindable.
Protected with 2 bans, and you just run at the... You just avoid the CC, and you just start running at the Orianna to zone her out of the fight. The Syndra will be picked up for JB. I think it is a good pickup. It is comfort. He's shown that he's able to just edge out the leads even in this Orianna lane, which is known for being a bit more of a complicated lane matchup to figure out for the Syndra.
Yeah.
The Orianna Clockwork windup is going to be always a little bit tough to trade into in the early game. But as we see now, the Ambessa taken away from the Hackers.
It's interesting because obviously that Tristana was paired with an electrocute aggressive Lulu in game 1, was banned out in game 2, but now we're pinching Akaz's champion pool. We can't ban out those supports, that Lulu and that Karma from game 2.
Taric ban from the side of Broad. Taric Kindred, very obnoxious, very strong. But I don't know if it's right call at this time.
Yeah, the Kazanta are going to be banned out there. So it is interesting because I am thinking really, like, what is Loopy going to play, right? Maybe the Urgot is where they're looking to go for here, but like, I also feel like 200 bandits, they need some sort of like big engage, right? Like, yes, they have a little bit of pick potential there with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, right? They also have Scatter the Weak coming out from the Syndra, but
it's not reliable.
Like, the Urgot isn't going to give you that extra level, and I feel like now it's all relying on the support, which they had left for last pick, which does open up the counter for Akaz.
I also don't love Urgot here because the champs you see currently, he should, apart from the Vi, like, you shouldn't really be able, outside of a flash, to get onto an Orianna or to get onto a Tristana, and you have no real enablers on your team to help you out here. So, Jamsu picking up a Rel makes a lot of sense paired with the Orianna. I'm worried for 200 bandits right now.
Counterpoint to your Urgot argument.
Yeah?
Game 3, screw it, we ball.
Yeah, you're not...
Yeah, okay.
Whoa. That is,
it's
that
support.
Is not what I was expecting to come out.
Top lane into the Urgot.
Pick.
Well, he can't get the disdain on you if you're playing Poppy, and that is about 50% of Urgot's damage is disdain into backlegs. So I do get it. A Renata would be interesting.
A lot of pressure on Sin though. Like, I feel like QQR and Sin are basically holding up the team, so it's a lot of pressure onto the two characters. They've done a lot in the past, and the Renata are going to be the last pick there. again, I think it can work. You know, I'm still not loving the 200 bandits. They're basically, in my mind, waiting for the side of Broad to make a move. You know, like they're not going to be doing a lot of proactive stuff, and I feel like unless they're going to go for small picks here and there around objectives, they are going to be at the whim of when Broad want to fight. They just have to try and turn it around.
So 200 bandits have a fun interaction with the Renata and the Kindred, like delaying the bailout, with the Urgot and the Kindred delaying that Urgot ult, and then you can perfectly time it, walk out of the Kindred ult and murder someone very effectively. It just feels a little disjointed, like they don't really want to get to an objective first because there's a Vi and a Rel jumping on your face. You can't really retake an objective. Like, that's your better approach, but at the same time, how are you ever walking into a choke with this comp? I'm very worried.
Yeah, also the early game is massive for me, right? We talked about the Kindred being a little bit of a flip champion, right? Vi, notorious in the early game, really good at level 6. We talked about the bot lane getting ganked. Again, it's an Ashe immobile with the Renata, again, immobile. It's like there's a lot of potential for Broad to just do exactly what they did in game 2, to go bot lane, to get Sin ahead on the Tristana, and then really just take the game over from there. And I don't really know what the counter is, because you also talked about the Urgot taking people out of the Lamb's Respite, but you've also got the Buster Shot from Tristana. Like, she can also play the same game and win.
I think the important like pivot for this 200 bandits hub is the Renata. The Renata is one of the better champs to play around like counter dive, basically, because of, you know, of course the bailout, there's the, you know, the shields, the handshake. There are so many tools available to Renata, and they're paired up with one of the most lane dominant AD carries in the game right now, where I do think it's going to be at least 20% more difficult for Broad to get the leads in bot side than they were in the game 1 and 2. This Renata is the pivot point of the 200 Bandits comp, and I think the marker of 200 Bandits wanting to take a fight is going to be that Renata moving. Okay, interesting. I also do agree hostile takeover is going to be dangerous too. I think that there's a lot of potential that can be set up. I like the one thing I will say that I do like about 200 Bandits is that they do have some sort of unity in the fact that they would like to step back and they would like to play from range. They want to keep you at arm's length, with maybe Urgot going a little bit further forward, but they're not looking to all dive. They're not looking to kind of have a half dive even. They are all happy to play range, right? You have two ADCs, a Syndra and a Renata, and then Urgot to stand in the middle. So I do like that they are committing to the fact that they are willing to kind of take that step back. However, it does, for me, give over a lot of pressure in the early game, and that's something that I feel like has just been the ruling of the series, right? If you get ahead in the early, you've then taken the game in the mid, you've then taken the game in the late, Rory, and it doesn't feel like there's so much rebuttal coming in from 200 Bandits that if they don't win that early game, they can then just claw it all back.
Especially with this comp in particular, I feel like if you do fall behind, it's really hard to not just get flashed on by a Rel, engaged on with a Vi ult, and still be able to pump out enough damage to make a Kindred ult really matter. You know, like, it's great having this delay tool, but if you're not equalizing the damage while that delay tool is up, then it's not very successful.
And also, like, again, it's a little bit of a game of chicken, you know, when do you use the ultimate? Because if you're using the ultimate, you're getting corralled, and then you're getting hit with a shockwave. It's not fun. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you are just going to lose the game, right? But also, it's sentiment if you use it early, and then Poppy says, actually, we just don't want you in the game. We're just going to kick you out of the whole arena, right? Then it's like, again, okay, you've delayed time, but for not a lot of gain. And I feel like that's where Kindred obviously does have that level of difficulty. Like, when do you use Lamb's Respite? When do you get maximum out of that ultimate? And I feel like we saw Kindred being played by Lungful before. It was a really good pickup. They had a really good game, but it didn't get them the win. Will it this time? We're about to find out. We're going to send it to the final game. Greyheart Harold, take us through the final of today's matchup.
Oh boy, it's gonna be a blast. The question is, will it be a blast coming out of Tristana's cannon that is just a little bit too much for the 200 Bandits? Or Will it be a blast from the past coming in as we see some of these lock-ins a little less traditional in terms of the team comps this time around, Hamhand?
I mean, there's also the shotgun blast from Urgot's knees.
Ah, I like that. That's what I should have gone for.
I thought that's what you were going to go for.
Well, we wanted shotguns in
Stand
game
again.
number 1, and they didn't come through, but we got the shotguns this time around. I'm frankly stunned by the 200 Bandits draft. I feel like the almost complete lack of engage outside of an Enchanted Crystal Arrow is questionable.
I don't think in this game their burden is to engage. They're not in their draft is not in a situation where like we're not looking to play at range. They have the Syndra poke, they have the Ash poke, they have the relatively limited Urgot poke, they have the Kindred potential of just the volley of arrows from her Q to just get that extra poke in. And then they can use their ability to just like force this kind of fight by poking to just then immediately like stand their ground and re-engage, but enough of me yapping. Stand take it away.
I hear you, Harold, and I kind of have to ask myself the question: with a comp like that, looking almost to play sensibly, I wonder if 200 Bandits know where they are. I know where I am. I'm back on Summoner's Rift once again for a third and final time tonight. I hope you've had your Silver Scrapes parties going on and that DJs in exotic places have been playing that. No shade, Gus. And we are going to get into Game 3. All the action coming your way. We'll cover every single second of this crucial game for these two teams. As was being put out on the desk, a loss here means you have to play so many more games if you lose.
Yeah, I mean, it's the lower bracket grind, you know. Teams have made it, you know, their storyline in tournaments. Teams have made it their mantra, like, you know, like upper brackets for
Minions have
Beep.
spawned.
Liquid 2017 at TI. But yeah, you're putting yourself in a position where you don't want to be because you're putting yourself in a position where you have a new opponent every week or even every few days. In the other half, you already know the opponent you're going up against if you win now, and you aren't playing them for 2 weeks.
We just saw Kenny practicing a little bit of toxicology on the Renata Glass there, and a very toxic environment for Sin to have to deal with early, losing a little bit of health before even properly getting into the laning phase. A quick check onto the red buff as well to make sure no shenanigans had come through from the Kindred, but no, it is going to be a top side of the map start for both junglers.
Loopy is just making use of that Urgot passive, you know, the Echoing Flames do give you the max HP damage. At the start of the game, it's not that much, but, you know, later in the game, one of the main reasons that Urgot is kind of that terrifying late-game juggernaut is just the amount of damage it can output while also being not immortal, but, you know, ever so tanky with the builds that we are seeing lately. Even though last time I watched Loopy's Urgot, he went Hubris, second item.
Wow. Less tanky, more destructive if you're going down that lethality path. Speaking of destructive, QQR in trouble here. Surely we'll have to try and flash. Gets away, puts down good damage in the trade as well, so JB can't flash and return to try and secure this kill.
That is flash burnt already on QQR. And as we can see, there's a Kindred mark immediately being placed on his head.
There is, but it's the other jungler we have to talk about. Tofu waiting in the wings, had the potential for the flash Q. But stepping away, JB, if they had been a second or two longer that Vi had stood there, could have been a free kill. Before we keep going on that, Harold, can we just a J-Reel, get Vi's name out of your mouth? I'm not a fan of Vi. I heard you. That's my main champ right there, and I will not hear this slander. I will see you at LAN Park.
I'm kind of envious of you guys. You're gonna be able to see each other and watch League of Legends together. One of my favorite activities is to go and meet strangers and watch League of Legends together.
That's an incredible
Can't do
sentence.
that until. I'm not gonna be able to do that for a while. I might go to Berlin at some point in the year, and then I'm gonna probably go to season finals. But
Brilliant.
As we see Lunkafer already in this bot side, securing the first soul already on the scuttle. The timer, the Tofu spent hovering the mid lane. Lunkafor just uses it correctly to just get his mark.
This turns
You see
into
the mark getting placed on Tristana.
this turns into a fascinating 3v3, but with the mark being put down, the signals of intent from Kindred were there. No dive is issued on towards Elendil, and Kenyu have had to burn through the majority of those pots.
Yeah, very, very good, trigger discipline from the side of the Broad as we see Lunkafor just going for the trade on QQR. He knows he has no flash.
QQR has walked into a hell of a lot of trouble here, but has got the support of those 3 that have been down on the bot side of the map and gets away without giving up first blood in this game.
I'm going to say, it has been a common occurrence, QQR walking into trouble in these early games.
Oh, this is nice.
On the Oriana.
Oh,
But
really, really nice timing.
Oh, the mark spawns in the second scuttle.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
This Kindred is already so accelerated.
Super much so as a result of not having seen anyone picking up that first scuttle. The reset, it comes in nicely. Bad news bears at the minute for Akers, who's dropped down considerably on CS in comparison to Lupi. This is exactly what we saw in game 1 as well.
Yeah, I think this is a good... That's why I said I like this 200 bandits draft. They're going back to what worked for them. They're going back to dominant lanes and a jungler that can just use that dominance to just buy space. The bar goes down on Akers. Akers has flash.
Yeah, has got flash, but will need to play this one pretty near perfectly. And with a little bit of help from the jungler, that may well happen. First blood comes in, but it's immediately equalized. And with another dash available, there is a chance for Lupi to be in a bit of trouble. Has got the flash available themselves. We'll see if he gets forced out. Flash away, and that's enough to save the life of the Oak.
I wonder if Lupi had enough mana to use the Disdain to just buffer the CC from the Vi and just flip her under turret. That would have been pretty cool to see, but I understand, like, the mana cost is relatively high this early on, and Urgot does burn through mana like no other, really. Which is kind of surprising, because you never take mana sustain builds on Urgot.
There must have been a huge fight in bot because all 4 members of bot lane had super low health bars on the back of that fight as the recalls come through. We're going to see Void Grub starting up. Pings do go down towards it. I do think that nice dash coming out of Tofu means this didn't get spotted out by Kindred, and this is just going to be the Void being taken away for free and no dragon being returned this time round.
No dragon being returned, but I think 200 bandits are happy with the current state of this early game. They're going to give up these grubs, but you have a Kindred that's already on 3 marks.
Oh, we've got a fight brewing here. The Void Grubs are secured, and now the fight begins. Plenty of engage on the side of Broken Friends with QQR, who was the lowest, the Unleashed Power, securing the first kill of this fight. Now it's a 3 versus 3 with a return kill on JB as Akers picks up 1. Down comes Lupi, roaming down with the Fear Beyond Death available. Managed to get a good bit of damage on Tofu, issuing that ultimate. Just needs to get through that health cap. It's not quite happening, but it eventually gets through, and that will be a nice kill, and the feats of warfare secured for the 200 bandits.
The meat grinder claims its first victim as Lupi moves down and eats up Tofu. You know, that Awaken cinematic is kind of just gone a little bit too far now, but the Urgot manages to get his first kill of the game.
Yeah, and it's an important kill as well because we're just seeing Akers securing a kill, which had sort of neutralized out a little bit how that loss of CS had gone on top side. Being able to pick up that kill does mean Lupi extends that lead, and already you can see the damage itemization coming out. And this is going to be a mighty scary beast. One of my all-time favorite pop quiz questions, and no shade if you don't know it, but a lot of love if you do. What was Urgot's original ult called? It's one of my all-time favorites of League.
Hyperkinetic position reversal.
Oh, Harold, you've just gone up 1,000,000%. Like I already liked you. Already had a lot of love for what I'm hearing from your casting, but now, you've just got it in one.
I do think. Did I get it right?
Absolutely, hyperkinetic position reversal. I used to love shouting that in a fight.
I'm not gonna lie. I've started playing League and Urgot was already reworked. So
yeah, I know. That's why I was wondering if you might have got onto it. So well done. Kudos where it's due.
I really like Urgot. I used to play him a lot, and then I don't know. I kind of decided that I wanted to be a mechanical player and started playing Gangplank and Jace. So
okay.
Hasn't worked out so far. Gone back to Renekton, but yeah.
Lupi still doesn't have flash, by the way. Steadfast presence as well, so preventing the dash for as long as possible. Akers is going to be able to secure this one alongside Tofu. Looks like they want to give the kill over to their jungler, who's traded this aggression on top for that first dragon going down on bot side.
Oh, but Lukafor is about to pick up his 4th mark of the game. And that is one scary Kindred at 9 minutes with the extra auto attack range secured.
Yeah, that's
As we see
real. Sorry, I was just going to say really early, and all on the back of that early scuttle and that early kill damage as well. Red buff going to be stolen.
Yeah, red buff stolen. Kenny moving with Lukafor. As we were, I feel like I talked about this point a little bit early on. Ellendale is kind of the sacrificial lamb before 200 bandits here. Yeah, you're playing AD carry. Cool. Our jungler is gonna pick an AD carry, and he's gonna get the resources from your support.
I think they knew they were going to be that sacrificial lamb as well. I think if we're hearing that they've played 13 straight games of Ashe on solo queue, they knew this was their lot in life. It's not a lot, but it's their life.
Yeah, it ain't much, but it's honest work.
Absolutely, and if it ends up in a win for 200 bandits, I feel like Elendil will not be upset about that one iota. Not having picked up a kill themselves, of course, those kills spread out between the Urgot, the Kindred, and the Syndra, and it feels a lot like, based on how this game's been going so far, that 200 bandits probably wouldn't have had it any other way.
I do like that 200 bandits are being, even though they're fighting, they're being a lot more controlled in their fighting. They're fighting around the Kindred timers. They're waiting for Kenny to rotate up to the fights. I feel like if... Oh, is we fighting in the bot lane?
I love the way you say that, and then there's this really nicely timed magnetic field. Good answer from the Renata ult with Enchanted Crystal Arrow catching beautifully on Sin. The damage is good. The Buster Shot is better. The Ignite secures the kill. We are going to see JB roaming down, surely going to be able to secure a kill. Sin knows they are already left for dead for trying to secure one in return, but they're not going to get it. Tofu kills Loopy on the top side of the map, while one's already secured for JB. We're looking to see if they can get more on Jamps, who still has the unleashed power. Just needs to drop an orb on the head, and it's enough to get the kill on the Rel. Double for JB.
JB has been excellent on this Syndra all 3 games. In the meantime, Loopy dies another time. Tofu has taken it personally that the fact that the first time the Fear Beyond Death was used, it was on his head.
Yeah, you wouldn't like him when he's angry.
Yeah. I do think the JB having the access to the Syndra has kind of been the end-all be-all for 200 bandits. Even though they lost game 2, it was damn close because of the power of the scatter, the weak, the power of the unleashed power. That's a bad sentence. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm here for it. I think also, speaking of bad sentences, I have a fun sentence, but I'm going to wait a moment as Hawkshot reveals Jamsu and No Fight Bruise. I feel like you were talking a little bit about how Tofu had taken it personally, that Fear Beyond Death. Well, something they've personally taken is all 6 of the grubs, seeing those secured for the first time for Brod and Friends. That also is going to take them up to 2 neutral objectives secured. There is the ability, of course, for the turret still to go down, and that could go first for 200 bandits, but it feels like this one could be decided by who gets those neutrals.
As we see, QQR under the threat again.
Yeah, not able to get even close to stopping Lunkafor from securing that one, and this is Lunkafor back to game 1 Lunkafor.
Yeah, Lunkafor back on, a champion that he has that playmaking, he has that scaling angle to it. He is looking like a... Oh! JB!
Whoa, wow. JB just says to Tofu, take that one personally. Unleashed power to the face of our arcane protagonist, flashing away, beautifully getting out of any danger as well. That is now a 4-1-2 Syndra.
I'm really sorry for anybody that had headphones on when I saw that moment. I am really sorry, but...
I do not apologize. I've got headphones on and I was here for it. The more hype, the better, because this is a hype series. This is a hype game. JB once more. Enchanted Crystal Arrow does go wide. Scatter does not. Jamsu getting rinsed through. Good damage coming in, but the handshake goes wide.
If that handshake landed, that would have been another kill for the Syndra. 4-1-2, 8 stacks on the Dark Shield. Loopy?
Flash forcing his ultimate out of Akers, and that could have been a lot of danger. Fibion death damage certainly could have kicked through. Meanwhile, Dragon spawning very shortly.
I feel like Loopy tried to buffer the Keeper's Verdict with the Disdain, which is a thing you can do, which is silly, but... Tofu's back top lane. What a surprise.
We've seen this one before. It's going to give the second dragon of the game over to the 200 bandits, but will it secure another kill onto the Urgot? Akka's trying to crash this one into the turret, and Tofu looking to try and get this assault and battery down. Akka's getting the speed up, trying to get in time, but I think Loopy might have done enough to get out safety. Smashed down into the wall is enough to mean that Akka's proves me immediately wrong, but while this is happening, not only does the dragon go down, but a first turret will as well. 200 bandits take the warfare.
200 bandits have taken the warfare, the feat of warfare. They secure the first turret. That is feats of strength completed for this team. We saw in the last game they were so close to securing it, and then that one flip fight around the third Drake denied them the feats. As we see Jamzu relatively out of position. There's an Elendil behind him. There's a Lunka4 sitting right there, just going to be able to back away.
I'm really scared for Brod and Friends right now, because something that in both games 1 and 2 they had going for them was this accelerated damage for Sin on the Tristana. Even in the game they were losing so horrendously, it felt like their one point where they were still well in play. In this game, the Tristana just feels so far afield. Yes, they're 10 CS up on the Ashe, but they've not been able to get anywhere near through as much of the turret plating, kills, and everything else. And I'm just wondering how exactly Brod and Friends are going to be able to balance that out.
Well, they have this silly little Yordle called Poppy. Poppy is one of the most infuriating champions to fight into as any kind of relative squishy composition because of the amount of burst damage she has available to her. And the resilience, of course, that this build is going to give her. The Sundered Sky completed for the Poppy, which means she's also going to be an actual damage threat.
She absolutely is, and that will definitely be difficult to deal with. The Axis positioning could be crucial to whether Brod and Friends are able to secure this win or not. We're going to keep our eyes peeled towards that one. Herald is, I was about to say, is the next team to spawn, but I feel like I may have missed that one, and it was already secured.
Yeah, that was really bad. I'm sorry.
What?
As we see
Yeah.
Sin going in.
That took me far longer than it should have done, and it took Sin too long to find a kill onto Elendil. The flash forward, the volley forcing the flash and return. Meanwhile, Lunka4 finding the kill onto Jamsu. Fear Beyond Death goes narrowly wide of Sin.
Oh, so many whiffed abilities, but Jamsu does go down, which means the Herald will be secured for the side of 200 bandits, as this mid-tier one will also be secured.
There it is. I know
Elendil,
I wasn't losing my mind on the Herald.
No, you weren't.
I mean, I've not saw plenty of other things in this cast, but that's another story.
Yeah. But as we see, first another tower going down for the side of 200 bandits, taking that mid inner turret. As we see a TP
Teleport.
from Akkers in the bot lane, this is going to be a collapse onto GB.
Yeah, big aggression coming through. Assault and battery will be available. Knockup is going to connect. Then comes the X damage. Of course, no longer called that. Sure, it comes with a little name change, but now that is a beautiful usage of the Lamb's Respite. It's not enough to stop it, however, because the Keeper's Verdict knocks 2 away. Means JB dies. It's going to be a flash coming through from Kenny to make sure they are not the next victim.
The Keeper's Verdict really making that fight happen for the side of Brod. Such a beautiful Lamb's Respite by the side of Lunka4. Just so close to actually making the play where QQR plays up to the top lane and Sin is just dead.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Sin just having a real rough time of it. The real ADC on the map right now isn't going to be either Sin or Elendil. It's Lunka4.
Yeah, Lunka4 really has made it this early game his game. Oh, and bye, Elendil.
This is it, fight after fight. We are back to Messi all over again. The question is, who pays out the best in this scenario? It's 1-for-1 so far, except it's not, because Jamsu is able to just narrowly escape like a whisper in the wind. It'll be a double kill for the fight. Tofu narrowly able to live as well. Only Kenny lives to tell the tale on bot side.
Tofu really making everything happen for the side of Brod right now. We talked about so much about Lunka4 and how good he is, how important he is for the team. I think Tofu finally decided to listen to us and just wake up for this game 3.
Game is well and truly on now. QQR stepping up the top side, making sure not another turret goes down. gold all but equalized by Brother Friends, who had found themselves at quite a deficit. They still have to learn how to deal with the problem that is Lunkafor, but they're starting to get some problems of their own, namely Tofu. Eclipse now completed to go with the Sundered Sky.
Yeah, going for more damage and the combat shield. I think it's a choice. It's
You know
neither
what?
good or bad for now.
Well, I'm gonna go out on a limb. And I'm gonna say it's great, and the reason for that will be explained to you after what seems like it's gonna be yet another fight. Herald summoned in mid. There is gonna be extra pressure down onto Brother Friends as they try to take this dragon, but they are being surrounded. They are being swamped. It's gonna be Akers trying to do everything they can to absorb damage, but even the mighty tanky Poppy will fall eventually. The dragon is taken away, but here come the hot dogs. It's the kills raining in. First one goes over as it's Akers who dies. A really nice escape on the back of a beautifully timed ultimate from QQR.
Yeah, QQR making the escape happen, but so many summoners were burned. The Herald has been dropped mid for the side of 200 bandits. This is going to be another inner getting cracked.
It is going to be good damage across the turret, if not to fall. Here it goes, more gold going away with 200 bandits. They lose out on the dragon, but they do get a kill and the turret.
Could this be an Atacon for them? I feel like it's a bit early, but they're taking over the top side.
I-
Probably gonna ward it out.
I think after what we saw in the last game, there's surely no way they coin flip on that right now. It feels far too soon.
Listen, Lunka 4 uses the smite, so I would assume that no flip is going to happen.
Yeah.
Loopy is there.
Loopy is indeed there, so getting yet more CS. Poppy Akers doing a really good job to keep just about level on that one, given what the Ogre's been able to do. Just before that fight, I want to talk a little bit about itemization on Vi, because despite the fact that I continuously get the alt name wrong because they changed it away from Assault and Battery to Cease and Desist, I do play a hell of a lot of Vi, which is why, J-Real, you're in a hell of a lot of trouble when I'm finally managed to catch up with you. And I love talking about the build you go on this one. As someone who plays this champion so often and at so much worse a standard than what Tofu is doing, I'm always looking towards what the opposition team comp's going to do. Am I going to be playing a Hail of Blades game where it's going to be Eclipse and the like? I'm going to be able to blow up squishies. Do I need to be tanky myself? And that depends on two main things. What champions am I playing into, and what champions do I already have on my team? And I feel like Tofu's made this beautiful sort of cross between the two, coming in for the Sundered Sky you normally see on the sort of the Conqueror tankier build, but also bringing in the Eclipse that you sometimes see because there are squishier targets. There is now the ability for both him and also for Akers, as you said, putting out innately all this huge damage onto squishier targets to be able to eat through these health bars that little bit quicker.
Personally, I'm not a fan of Eclipse on Vi, unless you're going for the full lethality Vi. But that's a personal opinion. As we get back into the game, because I do think in these games beyond two items, you just kind of become an engage bot. I feel like Sterax just does so much more work for you in this case.
Okay, well, I value your opinion, and I will cede that you are considerably more knowledgeable when it comes to the ins and outs of the games, but we'll see whether this is something that Tofu is able to make work efficiently or not. Of course, Atacon has now spawned a good few minutes away from our next two neutral objectives coming in, and now it's just a case of who can hoover up the most CS, who can maybe start to apply pressure onto turrets, and more importantly, especially for Brother Friends, who can find a catch.
Yeah, I think 200 bandits are really happy just not having to fight at any point until they really have to, which is that they're probably going to be at the next straight timer. Their comp is they're in a situation where their comp has reached a point where they can just coast until they have to play the late game.
Kenny hovering for so long up by Atacon, certainly giving off the impression that if an opening should come up, that's something 200 bandits would seize upon very, very quickly. Meanwhile, feels like the game having stalled out a little bit is just an opportunity for Brother Friends to clear up a little bit of this CS, get themselves towards some of those big items they're going to need a little bit later on. As you can see, gold relatively splintered here. We've got small leads for top and ADC on the side of Brother Friends, but look at that massive input of extra gold to jungle and mid, and yet again, it's the Lunkafor and JB show.
Yeah, I mean, they've been running the show every single game. Every time 200 bandits have looked good, it's been off of the back of these two players. You know, Ellendale has been silently playing this pivotal role of being the setup player for the side of 200 Bandits, but when it comes to closing out the targets, closing out the games, being able to being that reliable damage dealer, it's been Lunkafor and JB.
And crucially, with no shade being thrown whatsoever, it was that pick on the JB in game 2 that eventually gave the game up for 200 Bandits. And that's why it's so important to see this Syndra's positioning being so on point, because if you lose that damage, especially before the Unleashed Power can come through, that surely signals that that's going to be a one fight for Brother Friends. Whereas if this Syndra goes relatively untouched, goes well protected, has excellent positioning, that's where 200 Bandits can really thrive.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for me to just call probably like what the next fight is going to look like, because there are so many hidden variables to do what can go right and what can go wrong. For example, you can extend, for example, the time of bailout by sitting in Kindred ult, for example.
I mean, what would JB have given in the last game to have had a bailout or to have a Lamb's Respite?
Yeah, I think in the last game the Poppy pick was probably a little bit off of comfort for Loopy, and it did feel like it when he wasn't, present or readily available to play as the front blood, to play as that engaged denial for the side of 200 Bandits. This comp from 200 Bandits is a hell of a lot more fist fighty, is a hell of a lot more centered around playing around your Kindred, and all of your players are on comfort, which is very important.
Harold, what I really like here is the speed at which 200 Bandits are getting to these objectives. We saw them setting up vision around Atakan, even though they didn't end up taking it. We see the speed at which they get to what is now their third Drake, and they're just comfortably setting up for these things. What is happening, however, is a trade across map, and we are seeing Atakan started up. We have seen one Atakan throw already from Broad and Friends. Surely we don't see another. It's going so low. There's no way Kindred's going to be here for a smite still. This Atakan surely has to go the way of Broad and Friends. The smite comes in. Tofu secures. The fight now breaks out.
The 200 Bandits are able to just pick up. Oh, the flash to Loopy.
Enchanted Crystal Arrow is good on Tofu. Bad positioning from QQR means this fight might be lost before it's even started. 200 Bandits might have lost out on Atakan, but they are securing all the kills they could possibly want. Akkas will be the fourth to fall, and it will be just as Baron spawns.
This beautiful masterpiece of a fight from 200 Bandits, wrapping around Lunkafor, being on the flank, being able to deny Sin presence in the fight. The damage dealer from the side of Broad is unavailable right now. Please leave a message as Tofu looks for the steal, but Grump's respite just comes down.
Happen is gonna stay alive for a moment, but not even close to long enough. Just gives up their life in trade for absolutely sweet nothing.
There is no world where, as of I here, you're trying to flip when you know the Kindred hasn't used ult.
Yeah.
The Kindred ult also saves the Baron. You can't kill the Baron if the Baron is sitting in the Lamb's Respite. It's desperation play. Broad are feeling it.
Broad certainly are feeling it. On the back of that, the Atakan wasn't flipped, but the fight certainly was. They are now 7,000 and a bit gold down. They are finding themselves so close to elimination from this top bracket.
Yeah, and this would be the upset. I did predict it. Just throwing that out there.
You literally called 2-1. Like,
I may be stupid sometimes, but about League of Legends, usually I tend to be smart. But this is a really well played by 200 Bandits. Do not diminish, like, Broad have looked shaky, but to not diminish what. Oh, okay.
If that had been a
little bit of
moment
a map.
so soon before Kenny had thrown out the handshake, and that was a stationary target for QQR. Could have been yet another kill. Flash had to be burned by QQR in the end. Good damage being put down onto Lupe, who looks like he's slightly overstayed his welcome on bot side. Meanwhile, this is happening, however, the inhibitor's being taken in mid.
Inhibitor goes down for one Urgot health
Tofu
bar.
once more.
And Lunkafor is able to get out. There's a 4-level difference between these two junglers.
There certainly is, and yet again, Lunkafor making such an incredible statement and just such a top performer, not only in this series, but this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, my confidence was shaken a little bit earlier in the season. A few shaky games from the side of 200 Bandits, but 6-3 record. They managed to pull it together. They've kept the same roster the entire time, and there's so much being done right by one side of the map, and so much not being able to be done from the other side of the map because Broad, they want to look for something. They want to look for picks. They want to look for lockdowns and just picks on the sideline. Like here, they're looking on JB. But look at the rest of the team. Look at the Renata. Look at the Vise. Look at the Ashley who's getting jumped on right
Tofu
now.
goes aggressive on Vandil, but I'm not sure that's the target you want. We saw this in game 1. The target selection, the pick making, it's just not good enough. It's not the synergy that we're seeing from the 5 men who are used to playing with each other all season. This is a splintered Broad and friends who now find themselves aggressed on. Beautiful blast going over from them. Great damage coming in. Nice stuff connects. We're going to see the ultimates being burned and the kills coming through. When all is said and done, it's a 3 for nothing. There's already a down inhibitor in mid, and this could be the game-ending play right here.
Oh, they're surely going for it. Lunkafor still has the Lamb's Respite available if they do want to try something. It's only Sin and Jamsu. They've been the pivot, the main stars for this broad roster in this series, but Jamsu's just gone.
Yeah, Jamsu's gone. Tofu comes back to life only to die instantly again, and die with him. Broad and Friends dreams of an upper bracket rematch against Venom Chris. They'll have to wait if they want the opportunity to face off against 9-0 Giants because they have been defeated. Tonight is not about Broad and Friends. It is about 200 Bandits.
What can I say? Sometimes you just get a gut feeling when you go into a series. Sometimes you've watched a player grow so much during a split that you're feeling like this is the moment where you either make yourself into a legend or break and fall.
All of the H's come together as I feel like I've got the hives playing in my ears as Harold Han says, hate to say, I told you so. A 2-1 win for the 200 Bandits in convincing fashion in the end in this third and final game. Lunkafor, the all-star performer, alongside, of course, JB with some of those incredible plays, but Loopy, Elendil, and Kenny certainly all did their bit. Elendil, somewhat a sacrificial lamb to go alongside the Kindred, playing on the Ash all 3 games, did their duty. Commiserations where it's due. Broad and Friends, they are still in the tournament. They dropped to lower bracket. They will now have to play 3 more matches to potentially get towards a grand final. But if anybody can do it, it's the team that went 8-1 in the regular split. They may even get a rematch against 200 Bandits along the way. Wow. Absolute scenes. I think that we need to let you have all the opportunity to talk this one over with your friends on the analyst desk. I've been Grey Heart. It's been a great fun cast. Harold Hammerhand, he's sticking around alongside Rory and the fantastic Jay Real.
Thank you very much indeed. That is a wrap for that game. Like, what a way to do it, right? Shout out to Lunkafor on the Kindred, by the way. Like, I know I said that I didn't like it before. I was a bit skeptical when we went into draft, but actually, you know what? He's just that good. He's just that good. He makes it happen. He makes it work. It doesn't matter the style. It doesn't matter the champion. He'll get it done. I'm still gonna be a Vi hater, I'll be honest. Like, I know it's not just the champion, but I just feel like if you don't get the lead, if you don't build yourself up early, then you become so difficult to play and so difficult to do a lot. But I think in general, it was just kind of the story of the game, right? Getting that early lead, winning the game. It's been the day of that, and it didn't disappoint in game number 3, Rory.
And I want to follow that up so importantly because we saw while Kindred was on first crab, really sucks that Kindred got the first mark on that crab on the 50-50 flip. But unfortunately, Tofu sticks around on the bot side a little too long, looking for maybe I can get this Tristana ahead, maybe I can do a sneaky level 3 play. But forgetting that the first 2 marks for Kindred always spawn on crab, which means Lunkafor can just turbo top lane, walks upon the Scuttle Crab with a new Kindred mark on and goes, great, well, I'm accelerated. And how often is it that in a best of 3 you see 2 games where the jungler gets Flame Horizoned? That's mad. That is a player who knows how to capitalize on a lead.
Yeah, Lunkerford, like we pointed about many a time, like we could go on and on about the plays that they made today. Like it was just a really strong performance. I would say, like, again, I felt the rest of the team, they turned up, right? Like they didn't give away the leads in the bot lane, right? They fixed up from game 2. They didn't give those leads over to Sin. They weren't allowing the Tristana to scale, and it really set up the composition, because like we said before, right, where you need to have multiple winning lanes and stuff. Broad put themselves in a situation where they were basically banking on mid or ADC to really pump out the damage, and neither got the opportunity to get ahead. JB picking up kills as well around the map, Harold. Like it just felt like 200 Bandits, they just got all of the power in the lanes that they needed.
Well, I feel like 200 Bandits did, like, they managed to get the draft to a point where they were like, okay, we have Argot, which we know is going to get pushed, and he's probably going to, get the laning advantage at least early on. Even though the Poppy is a complicated matchup, it's not that simple. You can repel the disdain, and it's kind of whiffy with the armor stacking on the Poppy W passive. But you have the Syndra, which JB has shown he's going to get the leads in the mid lane. He's going to be able to move around the map, link up with Lunkerford, and just be able to capitalize on getting the push in mid. And I feel like, again, going back to the draft, this Renata pick made it so
Really good.
impossible for the bot side plus jungle of Broad to try and capitalize on the bot lane. You don't have the same CC as a Nautilus or a Leona have, but you have so many peeling tools that make it so maddeningly difficult to pull off dives, repeated dives on this bot lane and get away with it.
No, indeed. It was a really good classing from 200 Bandits. I got to say, I think their drafting was good. Their game plan coming into this game was really good, right? Like in game 1, they knew what they wanted to do against Broad. In game 3, again, they went back to the drawing board. They were able to write up a play. They set it up, and they were just taking Broad to town, really, because like it's a sentiment where they didn't let them into this game. I feel like this was almost one of the most dominant of the 3. And look, Broad are a great team. They have a chance to come back. I believe that they can make it all the way to the finals. It's definitely not over for them, so they shouldn't get too hasty with that. But 200 Bandits are a dangerous team. They are a dangerous team, and Venom Crest needs to prepare, because they're going to be the next ones that they face, right? That's going to be the next challenge. It's a dangerous time at the top, and 200 Bandits are looking to steal it all and get themselves to the finals on a quick trip. So with that being said, right, what is the counter to 200 Bandits? Because Rory, it feels like you can kind of play around the top side, or you can play around the bot side, or you can play around the mid side, but they'll always find a way to make themselves successful.
I think you've really got to look at their main power points of where they're going to exert pressure from. Lunkerford is an obvious standout here, but sometimes, unless you have a really strong pushing bot lane, you can't successfully invade someone's jungle and really put a jungle ahead. It's more you accrue wins on your own. Looking at how Ellendale did today, twice he was put behind on the Ashe, and he was fine. Like, he wasn't pumping out the most damage, but a lot of the time he was doing his job as the Ashe. So I don't think that's a primary focus for you, unless you have an insanely snowbally AD carry. I think targeting JB might be a lot more successful on turning the team off, basically, because we've seen JB just accrue big leads all 3 games, kind of out of nowhere. Sure, some outplays, but some of them were just, oh, he randomly walked all the way down river and got a double kill sweep. I think if you focus JB, it could really hit 200 Bandits hard.
Okay. We'll have to see. Like, there's a lot of games to play, right? Like, let's not get it twisted. I wish we could bring up the bracket, actually, because there is so much playoffs left. You have no idea, right? We still have 2 losers brackets to go, and then they've got to play the losers of these upper brackets, and then they've got to play, and then they got to play. Like, it keeps going. There's still a whole load of matches left. There is a lot of League of Legends left in the UK EL before we even get close to the finals. But 200 bandits don't have to worry about that, right? They've made themselves that one step closer. What I want to say is I feel like they really showed up today, right? Because I think coming into this, it would have been very easy to count them out. You know, I said 2-0 to Brod, right? I'll hold my hands up. Like, and 200 bandits, I feel like they've improved so much throughout the season, and they've really become a dangerous force. And like you said, right, even other coaches are starting to get a little bit worried about how 200 bandits are starting to level up. So it's definitely one to watch out for. I think all in all, they looked really, really phenomenal. And also they kept it consistent, right? JB playing Syndra 3 games. You know, we also had Loopy play on a more comfortable pick, and it looked way better, right? When he played the Ornn, when he played the Urgot, looked way stronger than when he did play that Poppy. So maybe there's a little bit of wiggle room there on the pick and bans. You know, maybe you can try and ban them out and find a way through the top side. Who knows? But I think all in all, 200 bandits really impressed me today. And I think they're definitely going to be a dangerous side going on through the rest of the playoffs. Brod, though, I still think they did good. I think it was just maybe a little bit underprepared, maybe not having the right draft calls in maybe a couple of the games. I feel like game 1 could have been made a little bit closer as well. But at the end of the day, Harold, I feel like at the end of the day, they're still going to be a very dangerous team moving forwards.
I mean, of course, they're going to be a dangerous team. You know, they went 8-1 in the regular season. They made it close against Venom Crest in the game that they did drop in the regular season. I think this is a stumble, not a fall. This also is at the same time a wake-up call. They need to start being more what's the right word to use here? They need to be a little more concentrated in the way that they think about their drafting pools. They need to whittle it down a little more, I feel like, because Sin has been off the Varus for 3 games in a row because it was banned. And as much as it did look okay when he got the resources, as soon as there was a game where he couldn't get any resources, he looked lost. Which, it shouldn't really be the case for an AD carry at this level. You should be able to confidently be able to play at least 5-6 champions, I would say. I'm not gonna dig too much because it's one series and it was a difficult laning phase to play. But I feel like there's some things that need to be attacked in the way you think about a preparation into a game, into the opponent you're going into. Clearly, in this game, they were thinking about the fact that the 200 bandit spot lane has always been kind of their sacrificial lamb, and they went for these aggressive laners for the Tristana. They went with the Rel, both of them, like in at least 2 of the games, I think. And it paid off in game 2. In game 1, it almost paid off, but there was a Lily that was a bit too accelerated. There needs to be a failsafe. If Sin doesn't get ahead, what do you do? Yeah,
I agree, and I think I'm also a little bit surprised Akers wasn't put on something more aggressive. On that exact remark, right? Like I feel like Akers has shown up time and time again as a really strong player, able to make a lot of plays, really game changing in some of the ways that he's kind of put performances in. And I feel like today it felt like he kind of got put on the back burner a little bit, and because of that I feel like Brod just didn't have that other punch, right? It felt like they were always hitting the jab, they were always getting that first move in, but they weren't necessarily following it up, and they didn't have other combinations to kind of weave that around. So it's a sentiment of like, I want to see them go back to the drawing board. I think they have a lot of potential to really make big plays. And I do agree with you, right, Howard? I do think it is just a stumble. I don't think it's a fall. I think Brod will have a lot of opportunities, but they got to prove it next time. They've got to try and show this one up, because the next match is going to be for the death, right? If they lose one more time, they are gone. Playoffs done. We'll see you in spring.
Yeah, and they're playing against the winner of Vertex Gucci, which, frankly, I expect them to win. No matter which team gets through from that pairing, as Gucci and Vertex are both much worse teams. Let's be objective here. They are worse teams. But really, QQR has a bit of a redemption that's needed here, because you said it on Cast, Harold. You were like, oh, all these people were bigging up QQR in the back room. It wasn't impressive today, which you could say is due to synergy with other teammates. But I feel like he didn't go out of his way to get anything done, if that makes sense.
Well, we're going to pause it here. We've had a lot of speculation. We'll see how they do level up. We'll see how they change. But before we do that, let's bring in the winners interview. Let's bring in Loopy, the top laner for 200 Bandits, the Orton enthusiast himself. Let's welcome him to the stream. Hello, Loopy. How are you feeling after your victory today?
Well, that was an interesting game. I don't know. It was an interesting match because we didn't know what the outcome of the game was going to be. Whether it was going to be a hard game to play, or whether it was going to be one which we could capitalize on the advantages of like the previous showing we had against this team.
Yeah, and did you like what was your speculation going into this? Right, you say you mentioned you played them. Obviously, you played them right at the start of the split, so it has been quite a time. Were you worried that you were going to have similar matches going forward, or do you feel like you guys have elevated a lot as a team?
Well, it was been interesting to see how they adapted to our original game, because we showed like what we were comfortable playing and whether they would like ban out some of the things which we were obviously showing, like the Ornn, for example, ended up getting banned in all 3 games. And yeah, I'd say we've definitely adapted as a team and really grown into what we feel comfortable with.
Yeah, no, indeed. I do think you guys as a team have grown a lot, right? I think that your matches that you lost in the regular season, right? Obviously, you lost to Venom Crest as well, the team you're going to have to play up against next. That was a little bit more of a macro decision rather than the way you lost against Broad, which was obviously a little bit of a random fight that happened. It didn't go your way, but you had a back and forth throughout the series. Like, looking forward towards that, right? You're saying you've grown, you're saying you elevated, you guys have adapted a lot as a team. How are you feeling moving towards Venom Crest, right? Because they're obviously, in my mind, the most macro intensive team, right? They have it down. They have the game plan. They get the early objectives. They're good on the split push. How do you feel like you guys are going to adapt playing into them?
Ooh, it would definitely be an interesting one. Obviously, they were probably the only team which we didn't forge like a huge advantage against. Obviously, it was unfortunate we ended up losing to them because we did kind of get ahead towards the end of the game, and then we ended up in that choke where Sivir ended up one-shotting our support, which was like obviously very unfortunate in that time. But yeah, I think it would definitely be an interesting final. It'll be semi-final rather. It would be because obviously their top laner Bust is someone who I felt like had a not so like I want to see more out of the guy, because obviously I played the Ornn into the Olaf and I actually almost solo killed the guy, which shouldn't really happen in that matchup. So be interesting to see how that one goes next time, obviously.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a bit of a different question and then I'll get you on the final question. Okay, so this one, who is your dark horse of the tournament, right? You have made it through, right? You're in the upper bracket, but looking at the lower bracket, right? There's 6 teams that are still below you, right? They're still going to be making their way through the tournament. Who do you feel like will be the biggest shocker of a team moving up?
Oh, so I feel like the obvious answer would probably be something like Belfast Storm. I actually think they look pretty decent as a team, but the other one is most likely going to be Good Chi. As a team, I thought on paper they looked pretty strong, but then ended up having a relatively poor showing, which was obviously unfortunate, but hopefully they have grown maybe, and we can definitely see more out of that team. That would definitely be something which I hope to see out of some of the players.
Okay, final question now. Now, obviously, you're known as an Ornn enthusiast, right? We also see you
yes.
right? But if there is a champion, and I'm not trying to ask you to leak things here, but if there was a champion you could play in top lane, right? You just get to pick complete free reign, no drama, right? What are you picking? What's your crazy pick in the top side?
Oh, well, I do have some, and like some of them are on my profile. I mean, I'd love to like pick the Pantheon maybe in one of these situations. Obviously, that's a bit more volatile. But the comfort is obviously the Ornn, the Urgot, the Shen, stuff like that, which are all very clearly on my profile. So I don't expect any of these to be very like hidden picks. So that is definitely what I'd lean more towards.
Okay, so no crazy Fizz top or like no Cassiopeia coming out here. Okay,
I'm a very standard kind of player.
Yeah, no, indeed. All right, thank you very much, Luby. Do you want to give any shout outs to anyone before I let you go?
I mean, my jungler, obviously, he kind of 1v9 today once again. Every series he seems to be able to like bring out some sort of Lilia and completely 100 CS gap enemy jungler. It's yeah, he definitely deserves it for today.
Yeah, no, indeed. Looking for an exceptional series, but all in all, 200 bandits making their way through. Congratulations, if we're going to let you go. But what a game, what a series today from yourself and your team. So thank you very much. We're going to let you go. We're going to bring back my analyst, and that was the interview. That was Loopy, you know, like obviously, Roy, you're a big fan, you know, like he seems
I
pretty
love
happy
every
after that
Urgot
win.
player out there. Back in the day, I used to play on a terrible laptop that had a good 40 FPS, and Urgot was my main. So I've got an entrenched love of Urgot players.
And I feel like that's it, guys. Like we're kind of wrapping it up now. What's your final take? Harold, you kick us off. Then Rory, you can tell me what is your final thoughts on today's series.
You know, consistency pays off. That is my main takeaway.
Okay. Oh, all right. Nice. I like it.
Because, you know, 200 bands have been consistently getting better and better at playing together as a team. And they've been getting better and better understanding what is the way that they should play around their carry players to get themselves in a winning condition. They have been consistently beating the worst team than them. They've only struggled against the statistically better teams in the division.
Agreed. And Rory, what is your... Oh, sorry. You're still going. Sorry. My bad.
No, just one last point. And then today, they beat Broad in a 3-game series. And I feel like this is consistency and hard work paying off, and I will keep them in my dark horse status. I will keep my nomination as is for MVP because they are doing a hell of a job, and I can't wait to see them in their next game.
Okay, and your final takes, Rory. What's your roundup of today?
It's just a reminder for all of those who are playing solo queue that if the jungler sits bot lane for 3 minutes and your AD carry magically doesn't run you down because of it, it's all free real estate. Everything topside free real estate. You can take whatever you want. No one's chasing you down. It's all good. You can acquire a 40 CS lead for free is nothing. It's awesome. So please do it instead of just pinging and then just doing your basic clears in circulation. Do something.
Okay, well there you go. A little bit of advice, you know, for the solo queue players. Mine would be just don't play Vi, you know, but I'm just a hater. So either way, me and Grey, I will talk about it at LAN. But for now, that is going to be us to say goodnight. Shout out to the production, shout out to Greyheart, shout out to you guys on my desk. We'll see you soon for the lower brackets.